Friends, if you're in the mood for a heart-pounding, adrenaline-fueled cinematic adventure, and you've ever dreamed of what it would be like if dinosaurs walked among us once again, then you're going to love what we have for you today. If you want to experience the epic film Jurassic World in English, make sure you stay with us because this one's going to be wild. And hey, if you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update about the most exciting and talked about films out there. In today's video, we're diving deep into one of the biggest blockbuster hits of the decade, a film that resurrected a beloved franchise and delivered it to a whole new generation with jaw-dropping action, stunning visual effects, and larger-than-life creatures. Yes, we're talking about Jurassic World, the 2015 film that took the world by storm. We're going to explore what makes this movie so special, how it connects to the original Jurassic Park trilogy, and how it expanded the universe in thrilling new directions. You'll find out where and how you can watch Jurassic World, whether it's available in theaters again for a special screening, on an OTT streaming platform, or even on a satellite TV channel. I'll be sharing the best options for you to enjoy the movie in high quality, whether you're watching it for the first time or revisiting it for the 100th. We're also going to dive into the behind-the-scenes magic that made this film a reality. From the early stages of pre-production and the long-awaited revival of the franchise, to the casting process, script development, and the creative vision that brought the story to life. We'll talk about the filming process, including where those breathtaking island scenes were shot, how the filmmakers created those ultra-realistic dinosaurs, and the incredible practical effects combined with cutting-edge CGI. And then there's the music. The soundtrack of Jurassic World deserves a spotlight of its own. We'll take a closer look at how the score pays homage to the iconic themes of the original movies, while also carving out a bold new musical identity for this installment. We'll also examine the contributions of the talented team working behind the camera, directors, writers, cinematographers, and VFX artists, who gave this film its pulse-pounding energy. Of course, we can't forget to talk about the film's financial side. I'll walk you through the budget of Jurassic World, how much money was spent to bring this vision to life, and most importantly, how it performed at the global box office. Did it smash records? Was it a financial triumph? How did critics and audiences react? We'll cover it all. We'll also jump into the plot and break down the storyline for you, from the reopening of the legendary dinosaur theme park to the chaos that unfolds when science and ambition go too far. You'll get a small but thrilling review of the story itself, and what makes it so gripping from start to finish. Plus, we'll discuss the characters and the actors who played them, who they are, what roles they played, and how they contributed to the story. Whether it's Chris Pratt as the fearless raptor trainer Owen Grady, Bryce Dallas Howard as the ambitious park operations manager Claire Dearing, or the supporting cast who each brought their own flavor to the narrative, we'll explore how each character fits into the larger world of Jurassic mythology. And lastly, we'll touch on some fun and fascinating facts about Jurassic World that even hardcore fans might not know. From Easter eggs referencing the original trilogy, to interesting production secrets, you're going to learn something new that will deepen your appreciation for the movie. So my friends, buckle up and stick with us till the end of this video because this journey into the world of Jurassic World is going to be nothing short of epic. Let's get started. The story of Jurassic World opens with a sense of awe and anticipation, setting the tone for a grand return to the legendary Isla Nublar. This isn't the broken-down park of the past. It's a fully functional dinosaur theme park, dazzling with technology, attractions, and thousands of visitors marveling at creatures that once roamed the earth. From the first few moments, the film invites the audience to experience the dream that John Hammond once imagined, now realized on a massive scale. But beneath all the polished surfaces and corporate branding lies a simmering tension. It's clear that the people running the park have learned all the wrong lessons from the past. Instead of respecting nature's boundaries, they've pushed them even further, and that's where the real story begins. The early scenes follow Claire Dearing, the park's operations manager, who is the embodiment of corporate ambition. She's smart, polished, efficient, but emotionally distant and so consumed by numbers and investor meetings that she barely registers the arrival of her young nephews, Zach and Gray, who have come to spend time with her. Her detachment from both her family and the living creatures in the park represents the coldness of the modern corporate machine. Meanwhile, in a separate corner of the island, Owen Grady is introduced, a rugged ex-Navy man working with a group of velociraptors. He's training them, studying their behavior, and earning their trust. Owen serves as the voice of reason in the story, someone who respects the intelligence and danger of these animals and understands the ethical lines that shouldn't be crossed. The film quickly escalates as we learn that the park's scientists, under pressure to deliver something bigger and scarier to boost attendance, have created a genetically modified dinosaur, the Indominus Rex. This hybrid is unlike anything the world has seen. Larger than a T-Rex, with the intelligence of a raptor, camouflage capabilities, and a heightened predatory instinct. It's a creature designed in a lab for maximum wow factor, and it becomes the film's central source of conflict. The decision to engineer such a monster is a major turning point in the plot. It shifts the story from one of spectacle and amazement to one of tension and looming disaster. Things spiral out of control when the Indominus Rex escapes from its paddock. What begins as a mystery, how did it get out, what are its capabilities, quickly turns into a survival horror scenario as the creature begins killing everything in its path. This is the moment when Jurassic World transitions from a theme park wonderland to a full-blown nightmare. Zack and Gray, separated from adult supervision, find themselves lost in the jungle, witnessing firsthand the chaos unleashed by human overreach. Their journey isn't just a way to explore the island, it becomes a rite of passage. They move from being passive spectators to survivors, gaining courage and strength as they face real danger. Claire's character also begins to change. Forced out of her glass office and into the jungle, she gradually sheds her uptight, corporate persona. Her concern for her nephews becomes more personal, and her respect for Owen's understanding of the animals grows. Their chemistry builds naturally as they team up to locate the boys and survive the Indominus's rampage. Owen, meanwhile, struggles with a deep betrayal. His raptors, whom he raised and trained, momentarily fall under the control of the Indominus due to shared DNA. This twist delivers an emotional blow and raises the stakes. The creatures he trusted now pose a lethal threat. The subplot involving Vic Hoskins, a military contractor who sees the raptors as potential weapons, adds a layer of moral conflict. He represents the worst kind of opportunism. Someone who views these animals not as living beings, but as assets to be exploited. His desire to use the raptors in combat is both absurd and chilling, and it underscores one of the film's central themes: the danger of turning science into a tool for profit and power without accountability. The film builds towards several massive set pieces, none more chaotic than the pterosaur attack on the park's main promenade. This scene is a jarring reminder of how quickly order collapses. The birds, released when the Indominus smashes through an aviary, rain terror from the skies in one of the most visually intense sequences. It's also the moment when guests, who came seeking entertainment, are forced to confront the real consequences of genetic manipulation and illusion of control. As the climax approaches, Owen, Claire, and the boys regroup and prepare for one final confrontation. The surviving raptors, particularly Blue, rejoin Owen after recognizing his loyalty. Together, they lead a charge against the Indominus in a last-ditch effort to reclaim the island. But when all seems lost, Claire makes a bold, desperate move. She runs to the paddock of the original Tyrannosaurus Rex and releases it. This moment is layered with emotion and meaning. It's a callback to the franchise's roots and a symbolic passing of the torch. The T-Rex, a genuine dinosaur of nature, goes head-to-head with the genetically engineered nightmare in a thrilling final showdown. The battle is fierce and wild. With help from Blue and a surprise attack by the Mosasaurus, a sea-dwelling predator that pulls the Indominus into the lagoon, the hybrid is finally defeated. The ending doesn't tie everything up in a neat bow. Isla Nublar is once again lost, its dream shattered. The survivors leave with scars, memories, and a renewed sense of nature's power. Throughout its narrative, Jurassic World follows a mostly linear structure, but layers it with emotional arcs and evolving character relationships. The story is paced like a thrill ride, with bursts of quiet wonder interrupted by sudden terror. But it's the deeper themes that give the film its staying power. Human arrogance, the illusion of control, the ethics of scientific progress, and the clash between nature and industry. Through the journey of Claire, Owen, the raptors, and the kids, The movie delivers both spectacle and soul. It may dazzle with dinosaurs, but it bites hardest when it reminds us what happens when we stop respecting the natural world. The character development in Jurassic World isn't just a background detail. It's what gives the movie its emotional weight and keeps the audience grounded in a story full of prehistoric giants and corporate spectacle. The film could have easily coasted on the thrill of dinosaur action alone, but instead, it weaves character arcs into the chaos in a way that highlights human transformation, just as much as animal evolution. Each central character starts from a place of comfort or control, only to be thrown into survival scenarios that force them to confront who they are, what they believe in, and what they've ignored for too long. Claire Dearing's transformation is one of the most notable. At the beginning of the film, she's completely consumed by the mechanics of running a corporate-owned theme park. She's crisp, detached, and efficiency-driven, walking through the park in high heels and managing her staff with the same tone she uses to present quarterly reports. To Claire, dinosaurs aren't animals. They're intellectual property, entertainment units with genetic backstories crafted for market value. Her entire world is calculated, polished, and tightly controlled. But the instant the Indominus Rex escapes, all her spreadsheets and visitor stats become meaningless. She is thrust into a world she's been managing from a distance, but never truly understood. As she searches for her nephews in the jungle and partners with Owen, she begins to rediscover her instincts, both her survival instincts and her emotional instincts. She starts to care not just about numbers and safety protocols but about people, family, and the animals she's helped create. Her gradual shift from a stiff executive to a warrior sprinting through the night with flares to release A.T. Rex is not just a character beat. It's symbolic of humanity returning to its roots and relearning respect for life, both human and animal. Owen Grady, in contrast, is already close to nature when the story begins. He's intuitive, grounded, and perhaps the only character who truly understands what the dinosaurs are. He treats the velociraptors he's raised, notably Blue, with a kind of reverence. His bond with them isn't about domination or exploitation, it's about mutual respect. Owen doesn't want to control the dinosaurs. He wants to communicate with them, understand them, and form a relationship. He sees the danger in the genetic experimentation happening behind the scenes, and he never trusts the park's illusion of safety. But Owen also isn't a one-note action hero. His real strength lies in how he handles betrayal, particularly when the raptors, under the influence of the Indominus Rex's shared DNA, turn against him. It's a personal blow because he's built his entire life around loyalty and trust. But even in the face of that betrayal, Owen doesn't respond with rage, he responds with persistence. And when Blue ultimately returns to his side in the final battle, it's more than a cool moment. It's a triumph of earned loyalty and emotional connection. Zack and Gray bring a totally different dynamic to the story, and their development is surprisingly rich for a pair of teenage brothers thrown into a dinosaur disaster. Zack begins the film acting like a stereotypical older brother, disconnected, annoyed, glued to his phone, and completely unimpressed by the park or by his little brother's excitement. Gray, in contrast, is bursting with enthusiasm. He's full of facts, awe, and a deep love for dinosaurs. Their parents are on the verge of divorce, and that quiet heartbreak sits with both of them, unspoken but deeply felt. When everything goes wrong, and they're suddenly left to fend for themselves in the jungle, their sibling bond is put to the test. What begins as bickering turns into cooperation, and eventually into true teamwork. Zack becomes a protector, Gray becomes a strategist, and together, they survive in a world that no child should have to navigate. Their evolution isn't just about physical survival, it's about emotional maturity. They learn to rely on each other, appreciate each other, and become stronger as a pair than they ever were apart. Simon Masrani, though he's not a central character for long, adds depth to the film's exploration of idealism versus reality. He's the billionaire owner of Jurassic World, and unlike Claire, he genuinely seems to care about the magic and wonder of dinosaurs. He wants guests to be inspired, not just impressed. He references John Hammond and claims to value scientific achievement over profit. But Masrani's tragic flaw is his blind optimism. He believes that as long as intentions are good, the results will follow. He underestimates the risks, And when he pilots a helicopter into a crisis without real preparation, it costs him his life. His death is not just a dramatic beat, it's a wake-up call. It shows that good intentions are no match for unrestrained ambition and unpredictable nature. Then there's Vic Hoskins, the film's clearest antagonist, not because he wants to destroy the park, but because he wants to exploit its creations. He represents the dark side of human ambition, the desire to weaponize, control, and profit from life itself. While he doesn't grow or change, his presence is vital. He pushes the other characters to take a stand, particularly Owen. Hoskins wants to use the raptors in warfare, a decision that horrifies Owen and further solidifies his role as the story's moral center. Hoskins' demise at the claws of a raptor is poetic, its nature rejecting exploitation, and it serves as a final warning about what happens when power is abused. But perhaps the most unexpected and quietly emotional character in the film is Blue, the lead Velociraptor. Though she doesn't speak a word, her arc is unforgettable. She starts as a trained animal, loyal but wild, intelligent but unpredictable. When she temporarily turns on Owen under the influence of the Indominus Rex, it creates one of the film's most emotionally tense moments. Yet her return to Owen's side later is a powerful payoff. It's not just about animal instincts but about a bond that runs deeper than programming. Blue fights alongside Owen and even the T-Rex, and when she vanishes into the jungle at the end, it's not just a survival beat. It's the departure of a character who has earned her freedom and reclaimed her place in the natural world. Altogether, Jurassic World crafts a surprisingly human story within its colossal creature feature framework. The characters are more than types. They're reflections of different responses to power, control, fear, and wonder. Whether it's Claire finding purpose, Owen holding the moral line, the brothers growing up, or even a raptor choosing loyalty over instinct, every arc adds a new layer to the film. They change because they have to. They evolve emotionally in a world that is forcing everyone to adapt or be devoured. That emotional evolution is what turns Jurassic World from just a fun ride into a film that leaves an impact long after the dinosaurs disappear from the screen. The performances in Jurassic World are a huge part of why the film works as more than just a spectacle-driven action movie. With dinosaurs dominating the visuals and CGI playing a major role in the film's appeal, it would have been easy for the human characters to fade into the background. But that never happens. The cast breathes life into the story with performances that are layered, emotionally honest, and occasionally even surprising. They don't just react to CGI creatures. They ground the film in human experience, filling it with fear, awe, humor, tension, and heart. It's the actors who take the concept of genetically engineered dinosaurs running amok and turn it into a story we care about. Chris Pratt leads the charge with a performance that's both restrained and magnetic. His portrayal of Owen Grady strikes a careful balance between action hero confidence and empathetic observer. He doesn't play Owen as invincible or smug. He plays him as someone who has spent real time in the field, studied animal behavior, and earned every ounce of credibility. Pratt brings subtlety to the way Owen moves and speaks. He's not overly expressive, but his quiet authority makes people listen. Whether he's giving cautious advice to Claire or holding out his hand to calm a raptor, every movement feels deliberate, like someone who knows instinct is everything when dealing with unpredictable creatures. He's also not afraid to show cracks in Owen's cool exterior. When the raptors momentarily turn on him, there's no dramatic outburst, just a flicker of betrayal and heartbreak that makes the scene all the more powerful. He's a protector, not just of people, but of natural balance, and Pratt plays him with the seriousness that role demands while still carrying that glimmer of charisma and humor that makes him accessible. Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire Deering delivers a performance that evolves just as dramatically as her character. In the early scenes, Howard gives Claire a brittle precision. She walks fast, talks faster, and lives in a world of spreadsheets, logistics, and public relations language. There's not a single wasted movement in those first scenes, and that's intentional. Claire is someone who has her world tightly controlled and refuses to let emotions slow her down. But Howard doesn't let her be one-dimensional. Even before the chaos begins, there are flashes of discomfort and disconnection in her eyes when dealing with her nephews or talking about the park's more controversial scientific choices. As things begin to fall apart, Howard shifts Claire's energy with care. She doesn't snap into action hero mode immediately. Instead, she peels away layers of panic, guilt, and denial. By the time she's sprinting through the jungle, lighting a flare to unleash the T-Rex, you believe it. Not because the script tells you she's changed, but because Howard shows you every step of that change. It's physical, emotional, and mental growth happening in real time. And she makes it completely believable. Nick Robinson and Ty Simpkins, as Zack and Gray, are another standout element. Their dynamic is what gives the film much of its emotional core. Simpkins plays Gray with a wide-eyed sincerity that never feels forced. He's the audience surrogate, the kid who is still amazed by dinosaurs and facts and possibilities. Even in moments of danger, Simpkins keeps Gray's intelligence at the forefront, showing how someone small and overlooked can still think clearly and problem-solve. Robinson, playing the older, moodier Zack, gives the character more depth than expected. It's not just that he's a teen glued to his phone. He's a teen in emotional limbo, quietly processing the collapse of his family and pushing others away because he doesn't know what else to do. Their arc from estranged brothers to unified survivors is performed with quiet beats of vulnerability and trust. There's a genuine transformation in Zack's body language and voice as he steps up to protect Gray. And Gray's shift from following his brother to standing beside him is subtle, but deeply satisfying. Their chemistry feels real, and that realism grounds their scenes in a way that complements the larger chaos happening around them. Vincent D'Onofrio turns in a performance that is both intimidating and uncomfortably charming as Vic Hoskins. He's not a mustache-twirling villain. He's something worse. He's a man who believes in his vision with total confidence, regardless of the consequences. D'Onofrio plays him with a kind of swaggering simplicity that makes his presence unsettling. His dialogue is filled with confident proclamations and rationalizations for turning animals into weapons, and he delivers every line with the tone of someone who thinks he's the smartest man in the room. What makes the performance effective is how little he changes. Hoskins doesn't grow or doubt. He doubles down until the very end, and D'Onofrio never winks at the audience. He commits fully to a man who truly believes that weaponized raptors are the future of defense. It's a dangerous kind of performance, deliberately straightforward, almost blunt, but it adds tension and gives the story a very human antagonist without needing to be theatrical. Irrfan Khan brings warmth, elegance, and a quiet charisma to Simon Masrani. He doesn't have as much screen time as the leads, but Khan uses every second to create a character who feels fully formed. Masrani is not a villain, nor is he entirely naive. He walks into scenes with charm and curiosity, but also a kind of moral blindness. Khan gives him a lightness in his delivery, almost whimsical at times, but it's layered with idealism. He plays Masrani as someone who truly wants the park to be magical, but who tragically doesn't see how far it has drifted from that dream. His death, piloting a helicopter in a doomed attempt to contain the Indominus, is made all the more tragic by Khan's dignified performance. It's not just the end of a character. It's the collapse of a dream held together by charm instead of caution. B.D. Wong, returning as Dr. Henry Wu, is a quiet scene stealer. Wong's performance is all about control. He plays Wu like a man who sees the world through the lens of possibility, not consequence. His calm, clinical delivery makes his scenes chilling, especially when he discusses genetic manipulation like he's reading a recipe. There's no malice in his performance, just cold confidence in science, which makes him even more dangerous. He doesn't need to raise his voice or make threats. He simply believes he's always right. And that makes him feel like the tip of an even larger moral problem lurking beneath the surface of the franchise. Even the background performers help sell the reality of the park. From the panicked guests running during the pterosaur attack to the technicians in the control room trying to keep up with failing systems, there's a sense that everyone is reacting to something real. These small, believable reactions help the audience stay immersed. The chaos never feels staged, it feels overwhelming and human. And that's thanks to a cast that never treats the situation as absurd, even when the plot escalates to dinosaur team-ups and hybrid monsters. The cast of Jurassic World isn't just reacting to dinosaurs. They're responding to fear, regret, ambition, love, and survival. They help elevate the film from just another action blockbuster to something with emotional resonance. They make the unbelievable believable. They make the genetically engineered nightmare feel real. Colin Trevorrow's direction in Jurassic World is a masterclass in balancing scale, emotion, and chaos. It's easy to forget that this was his first time directing a blockbuster of this magnitude, but he approaches it with the confidence of a seasoned filmmaker and the precision of someone who clearly understands the emotional and visual language of the Jurassic franchise. Rather than simply emulating the original films, he curates a fresh yet familiar experience that feels both reverent and energized. His choices in pacing, shot composition, tonal balance, and narrative emphasis shape the film into more than just a creature feature. They create a dynamic, high-stakes adventure that's as much about human nature as it is about prehistoric monsters. Trevorrow opens the film with a sense of quiet build-up. He doesn't throw dinosaurs at the screen in the first 5 minutes. Instead, he creates an atmosphere, an illusion of control. The park is pristine, efficient, humming with life and technology. The camera glides through polished corridors, holographic exhibits, and luxurious enclosures as if to say, "Look how far we've come." He uses sleek, symmetrical framing and gentle, steady camera movement to emphasize how sterile and orderly the world of Jurassic World has become. But there's something lurking beneath the surface. The tone he sets is not just optimistic, it's eerily calm, and that calmness becomes a visual cue for what's about to go wrong. The way Trevorrow directs these early scenes shows his knack for tension by contrast. The shinier things look, the more you know they're about to fall apart. Once the Indominus Rex enters the picture, everything changes. Trevorrow immediately shifts into a different mode. The camera becomes more kinetic. The editing tightens. Wide, serene vistas are replaced with close-ups of trembling leaves, distorted infrared views, and desperate human reactions. He transforms the lush jungle into a maze of danger, where visibility is limited and the enemy is smarter than it should be. And yet, he resists the urge to over-edit or create chaos through confusion. Every scene is spatially coherent. You know where the characters are, where the dinosaur is, and what's at stake. He uses geography smartly, allowing suspense to rise from what we can see and what we can't. The moment when the Indominus disappears from its enclosure is a perfect example of Trevorrow's suspenseful restraint. He draws it out, forcing the audience to wait in silence before the horror unfolds, giving you time to feel the tension tick up second by second. In terms of pacing, Trevorrow is incredibly strategic. He structures the story like a rising pulse. The first act is deliberate, giving time for characters to be introduced and stakes to be set. The second act accelerates rapidly, bouncing between action sequences and moments of emotional reckoning. By the time the third act arrives, the film is in full sprint, but it never loses coherence. Trevorrow knows how to weave exposition and character growth into the high-energy sequences, so that the film doesn't just rush from one dinosaur attack to another. He understands that it's the moments between the chaos, the small looks, the breath-catching pauses, the personal sacrifices, that make the chaos matter. His use of scale is another standout element. Trevorrow frequently frames humans against towering enclosures, sweeping jungles, or colossal creatures to reinforce just how small we are in the face of nature's power. These wide shots do more than just dazzle, they communicate theme. He uses the camera to remind the audience that humans may think they're in control, but they're always just one roar away from being prey. A particularly brilliant moment of visual storytelling is when Claire and Owen first glimpse the trail of destruction left by the Indominus. Snapped trees, broken fences, crushed vehicles. Trevorrow doesn't show the monster immediately. He lets the devastation speak first, setting mood and suspense purely through what's been left behind. But Trevorrow also knows when to go big. When the Indominus finally reveals itself in full, it's not just a monster reveal, it's a thematic shift. The illusion of control evaporates. The creature is shot from below, against towering jungle trees and clouds, making it feel both unnatural and unstoppable. Throughout the film, Trevorrow returns to this motif. His shot composition consistently reflects the shifting power dynamics between man and monster. When the T-Rex is unleashed in the final act, she isn't just a dinosaur, she's a cinematic force. Trevorrow captures her return with long, dramatic takes that build momentum, positioning her as a kind of ancient guardian of nature reclaiming her place atop the food chain. He's also very deliberate with stylistic contrasts. Trevorrow frequently alternates between clinical, technological environments, like the labs, control rooms, and visitor centers, and the raw, unpredictable wilderness. He uses this visual divide to emphasize the core theme of the film: the illusion of control versus the truth of chaos. The park looks like a well-oiled machine until it becomes a war zone. The clean lines of civilization crumble under the teeth of evolution. This constant clash between order and wildness is reflected in both the mise-en-scene and the editing rhythm. His use of sound is just as thoughtful. Trevorrow knows when to let Michael Giacchino's majestic score swell, and when to let silence dominate. The most terrifying moments are often the quietest: the crunch of leaves, a distant roar, the beeping of a thermal sensor. He doesn't rely on jump scares or cheap thrills. Instead, he uses sound to draw you in, to make you lean forward in your seat, waiting for the inevitable. The attack sequences, particularly the raptor chase and the pterosaur assault on the park guests, are loud and chaotic, but they're never noise for the sake of it. Every roar, every scream, every crunch is timed for maximum impact. Trevorrow also allows room for humor and human awkwardness, something that many big action blockbusters forget. These moments, often tucked into scenes between Claire and Owen, or among the park staff, prevent the film from becoming overly grim. They give the audience moments of levity and remind us that these are still real people with relationships and personalities, not just figures running from danger. The humor never undercuts the tension, but it rounds out the characters and gives the emotional moments more weight. The climax of the film is perhaps the best showcase of Trevorrow's directorial vision. The showdown between the Indominus Rex, the T-Rex, Blue, and eventually the Mosasaurus isn't just an action set piece. It's a culmination of character arcs, visual themes, and emotional payoffs. It's choreographed like a dance, each movement designed to reflect the shifting alliances and the raw spectacle of nature unleashed. Trevorrow treats the dinosaurs like characters, not just threats. He gives them moments to pause, posture, size each other up. It's primal storytelling through movement and sound. In the end, what makes Trevorrow's direction so effective is his ability to make the film feel both enormous and intimate. He tells a story about monstrous creatures and genetic engineering, but keeps it anchored in human emotion and grounded character choices. His camera may pan across colossal jungle vistas, but it always comes back to a child's tear-streaked face, a mother's desperate voice on the phone, or a man trying to calm a creature he once called family. The cinematography of Jurassic World doesn't just capture dinosaurs on screen. It constructs an entire emotional experience around them. From the sweeping majesty of the park's vistas to the claustrophobic panic of a raptor hunt in the jungle, the camera acts as both an observer and a participant. It lures us in with awe, then plunges us into terror. It takes moments of grandeur and flips them into dread. It treats every frame as part of a larger story, not just about prehistoric creatures, but about humanity's arrogance, vulnerability, and desperate grasp for control. And through John Schwartzman's lens, the film becomes a visual narrative that mirrors the emotional rise and fall of the story itself. Let's start with how the camera introduces us to Jurassic World. The film opens not with a roar but with a slow, clean, calculated build. We see eggs cracking open under bright, clinical light. The park is revealed through smooth tracking shots and aerials that make everything look like a luxury resort or a futuristic zoo. Schwartzman uses symmetrical framing and expansive wides to communicate a sense of control, order, and commercialization. It's not the wild jungle of the original film. It's man's attempt to tame that wildness and turn it into a tourist attraction. The lighting here is intentionally sterile. Bright daylight dominates the frame. The shadows are soft. Everything is legible, polished, and safe. But there's a catch. The camera holds its shots just a second too long, drawing attention to things like fences, security cameras, and containment doors. Even in this glitzy world, there's tension brewing. The cinematography is already telling us that this place may look safe, but something's wrong. As we shift into scenes with Claire, Zach, Gray, and Owen, the camera adjusts its language. Claire's scenes in the control room are framed with cold blues, clean edges, and a lot of foreground-background separation. She's often shot with screens and control panels between her and the world outside. This isn't accidental. It's a visual cue that she's distanced from nature and emotion. Owen, on the other hand, is introduced through a much more grounded and organic lens. The lighting is warmer. The background is alive, plants, animals, uneven terrain. The shots are more handheld, looser. It gives his scenes a lived-in feel, establishing him as someone who's not trying to control nature, but who respects it, even fears it. Then comes the introduction of the Indominus Rex, and with it, a complete tonal shift in the cinematography. Schwartzman begins to manipulate shadow more aggressively. The enclosure is less about bright exposure and more about layered darkness. There are scenes where we see more of the trees and claw marks than the actual creature. The camera frequently withholds full reveals, using high walls, scratched glass, and infrared filters to tease the creature's presence. One of the most clever visual choices here is how the Indominus is framed before and after its escape. Before, it's often just a tail or claw or a wide shot from above, which makes it feel like a puzzle piece we can't fully understand. After it escapes, it dominates the frame. It's shot from low angles, in tracking movements, often emerging from the edge of the frame unexpectedly. Schwartzman builds its identity visually, first as a mystery, then as a nightmare. When the chaos breaks loose, the camera does too. Smooth tracking gives way to jittery handheld sequences, but never sloppy. There's always spatial awareness. During the pterosaur attack on the main street, the aerial shots are dynamic but clear. The camera loops with the creatures, giving us a sense of height and velocity, then cuts back to terrified guests running for cover. The contrast between soaring predators and scrambling humans is emphasized through sharp vertical movement. That sequence could have been visually overwhelming, but Schwartzman paces the cuts, keeps the geography clear, and lets the horror play out in waves, first panic, then full attack, then resolution. But the cinematography isn't just about spectacle. It knows when to be still. One of the most memorable visual sequences is the moment Claire and Owen discover the dying Apatosaurus. This is where lighting and camera position become deeply emotional tools. The sun is low, casting long shadows and warm golden light across the grass. The Apatosaurus breathes heavily, its massive body framed from below to emphasize its size and vulnerability. The camera doesn't rush. It slowly tracks in as Owen kneels beside it. The light catches the tears in Claire's eyes. It's not just a sad scene, it's beautiful. The cinematography tells us that this creature wasn't just a monster. It was majestic. A loss. A failure of human arrogance. And we feel it deeply because of how it's lit, how it's framed, how long it holds. Schwartzman also uses recurring visual motifs to subtly reinforce themes. Reflective surfaces are everywhere. Glass windows, digital screens, observation decks, creating a constant barrier between people and the creatures they think they control. But once the barriers start breaking, that reflection is gone, and the camera starts placing humans in the same frame as the dinosaurs more frequently and more dangerously. During the raptor scenes in particular, there's a shift in camera language. Early raptor moments are tense, tight, claustrophobic. We're often looking through fences or from behind crates. But in the later scenes, particularly when Owen reconnects with Blue, the camera widens out, softens. The raptors are still dangerous, but they're no longer unknowable. The cinematography evolves with the characters' relationships to the creatures, which is a subtle but powerful storytelling device. When it comes to big set pieces like the final battle between the T-Rex, Blue, and the Indominus, Schwartzman pulls out all the stops. Flames light the night sky. Sparks rain down in the background. The dinosaurs are shot like gladiators entering an arena. The camera dances between them, using crane shots, slow motion, and sweeping pans to heighten the drama. There are shots where the camera glides behind Blue as she runs into battle, almost like a war hero. There are low angles as the T-Rex lets out her iconic roar. And there's that final moment of the Mosasaurus lunging from the lagoon, captured in one clean, wide shot that frames it like a surprise from the heavens. It's not just thrilling, it's visually operatic. Color grading shifts with the film's tone. Early scenes are bright and almost overexposed, selling the idea of paradise. As the story darkens, so do the colors. The jungle becomes more shadowy, more dangerous. The control room lighting becomes colder. The night scenes at the end are rich with firelight, deep blues and violent reds, visually underscoring that the park is no longer a place of dreams, it's a battlefield. Throughout it all, the cinematography never calls too much attention to itself. It serves the story, the characters, the tone. It hides when it needs to. It dazzles when it's time. It's constantly shifting, reacting, evolving, just like the creatures on screen. And that's what makes it so effective. It's not just about capturing the dinosaurs in motion. It's about capturing the world they've broken into. The fear, the awe, the grandeur, the quiet tragedy of what's been lost. Through lens and light, Jurassic World becomes more than a movie. It becomes an immersive visual experience that roars as loud as its prehistoric stars. The editing and pacing of Jurassic World operate like the nervous system of the entire film, constantly firing signals, managing energy, and translating raw cinematic components into a living, breathing thrill ride. It's not just a matter of matching action to action or emotion to dialogue. The real genius is in how the film's editing shapes the audience's physical response, raising heart rates with rapid-fire cuts, slowing time to let emotion sink in, and seamlessly weaving multiple storylines together with such fluidity that you barely realize how many characters and plot threads you're tracking at once. It's not just about what happens. It's about how it's delivered. And in Jurassic World, every editorial choice feels like it's steering you through a carefully orchestrated experience, one pulse-pounding beat at a time. Let's start with the overall structure. The pacing of the film unfolds in a wave-like pattern. The first act is deceptively calm, measured in tempo and light on chaos. The editing here is deliberate, focusing on world-building, introductions, and slow-burn tension. We see smooth cross-cutting between the different storylines. Zack and Gray's arrival at the park, Claire's corporate-style tour through her daily responsibilities, Owen's grounded relationship with the raptors. These early scenes are built with a slow, steady rhythm. The transitions between them aren't flashy, but they're perfectly timed. The film spends just enough time in each subplot to set tone, establish character dynamics, and plant seeds of foreshadowing without lingering so long that we get impatient. This calculated pacing lulls the audience into a false sense of security, like the park itself, before flipping the switch. Once the Indominus Rex escapes, the entire editorial tempo shifts dramatically. You can feel the gears click. The edits become shorter, the cuts more aggressive, the transitions more urgent. Scenes start to bleed into each other more quickly, with increasing tension. There's a noticeable uptick in forward momentum, like the film suddenly stopped walking and started sprinting. But what's brilliant here is that, even in this shift, the film remains easy to follow. The editing doesn't just create chaos, it organizes it. Every sequence, no matter how wild or high stakes, maintains a visual logic. Whether it's the boys inside the gyrosphere, Owen and Claire navigating the jungle, or the control room staff trying to manage the disaster, the film never loses its through line. You know who's doing what, where they are, and why it matters. That sense of clarity in the midst of escalating action is what makes the pacing feel tight, but never overwhelming. Action scenes are where the editing really flexes its muscles. Take the gyrosphere attack, for example. It starts with wonder and slow, sweeping shots, Zack and Gray marveling at the dinosaurs around them. Then, when the Indominus appears, the edit tightens, the rhythm quickens, and the shots become closer and shakier. There's a perfect build here. The boys' shift from awe to fear happens in sync with the editing rhythm. When the gyrosphere flips, the camera flips with it. When the boys run, the cuts come faster. When they hide, the camera holds still longer. These shifts in rhythm are more than stylistic, they're emotional. The pace doesn't just tell us what's happening, it tells us how to feel about it. One of the most complex editing achievements in the film is how it juggles multiple storylines without ever losing the audience. At any given moment, you might be switching between the boys in the jungle, Claire and Owen hunting the Indominus, the control room dealing with logistics, or the raptors being deployed by the security team. That's a lot of movement. And yet, the film stitches these pieces together with precise transitions that make them feel interconnected. Often, the editor will cut from a visual or thematic cue in one scene directly into the next. A sound carrying over, a line of dialogue finishing in a new location, or an emotional beat echoing between characters who aren't in the same space. These transitions are subtle but brilliant. They keep the momentum going while reinforcing the narrative unity. But it's not all speed and intensity. The editing also excels when the film needs to slow down. Some of the most emotionally charged scenes are built around restraint. Look at the Apatosaurus death scene. The cuts here are much longer. The film allows the camera to linger. It holds on Claire's devastated face. It takes its time as Owen reaches out to comfort the creature. There's no rush to get to the next event. The slow pacing and longer takes give the moment its weight. And it works because we've just come out of several high-energy scenes. The editor knows that contrast makes emotion more powerful. Without that breathing space, the emotional beats wouldn't land nearly as hard. Another standout in terms of editing technique is how Jurassic World handles its reveals. The build-up to the T-Rex's reintroduction is a masterclass in pacing. It starts slowly, Claire lighting the flare, running toward the paddock. The film gives the moment space. The music swells. The cuts are deliberate, showing us just enough. Then, as the T-Rex stomps out into the frame, the tempo accelerates. The camera cuts to Claire's terrified run, the flare's glow bouncing off the walls, the roar tearing through the air. The scene explodes with movement, but only after building anticipation to the breaking point. This rhythm, build tension, release it, build again, is used repeatedly in the film to great effect. Then comes the climax. The final showdown is relentless in pace, but not chaotic. Every edit in the Raptor vs. Indominus vs. T-Rex sequence is purposefully timed. There's a rhythm to the battle, moments of dominance, reversals, reactions. And the pacing rides that rhythm like a drumbeat. Fast when the action peaks, slow when the characters regroup, medium when new threats emerge. It's not just fighting, it's storytelling through action. The editor knows exactly how long to hold on a triumphant shot of blue, how quickly to cut when the Indominus charges, and when to pause for dramatic effect. Even in a scene where multiple dinosaurs are battling under firelight and collapsing structures, the pacing ensures the audience can follow the emotional stakes and narrative flow. And just as the climax ends, the pacing slows one final time. The edit breathes again. No more frantic cuts. Just long, steady takes. Claire and Owen walking through the rubble. Zack and Gray reunited with their parents. Blue, silhouetted against the ruins of the park, vanishing into the trees. The film lets the final images sit with the audience, without forcing any extra exposition, or rushing to wrap things up. It gives viewers the space to feel everything that just happened. Ultimately, the editing and pacing of Jurassic World are what keep the entire narrative machine humming. They control tension like a dial, knowing when to crank it up and when to ease off. They balance kinetic energy with emotional grace. They shape how we experience the characters, how we absorb the action. The soundtrack and score of Jurassic World are nothing short of a full-bodied experience, one that reaches beyond just background accompaniment and becomes an essential, emotional lifeline to the film's storytelling. Michael Giacchino doesn't simply compose music for scenes. He creates a living, breathing atmosphere that ebbs and flows with the story's rhythm. It's a score that understands the world it inhabits, full of majesty, danger, nostalgia, and unrelenting tension. And what makes it so special is that it knows exactly when to roar and when to whisper. The music in Jurassic World doesn't just support the emotions on screen. It intensifies, manipulates, and often leads them. Right from the start, the score sets the tone. The first notes you hear are familiar yet altered, as Giacchino gently reintroduces John Williams' legendary Jurassic Park theme. But it's not blasted through horns or belted with grandeur. Instead, it's reframed, soft piano, subdued strings, quieter orchestration. It's a nod to the past, evoking wonder with a hint of reverence. It signals to the audience that they're back in this world, but things have changed. This subtle transformation mirrors the park itself. Shinier, more commercial, more confident in its illusion of control. The nostalgia is there, but it's been molded to fit a new reality, and Giacchino treats that transformation with grace. As the film dives deeper into its own identity, the original themes give way to new motifs that define Jurassic World on its own terms. One of Giacchino's most effective tools is contrast. His score is not just big and brassy or quiet and introspective. It's both, often within the same scene. He might begin with a peaceful piano-driven cue as the boys arrive at the park, marveling at the dinosaurs from the monorail, then gradually introduce fuller orchestration, shimmering strings and proud horns. There's a slow escalation in those moments that mirrors the rising sense of all the characters and the audience are feeling. The music never just accompanies wonder, it builds it. But the score is never static. The moment the Indominus Rex is introduced, the tone darkens immediately. Giacchino uses percussion in creative, often unsettling ways. The rhythmic pounding becomes unpredictable, like the creature itself, an amalgam of DNA and chaos. There's a mechanical aggression to the music surrounding Indominus, with dissonant string patterns, metallic sounds, and synth undercurrents that make the creature feel alien even in a world of dinosaurs. The theme tied to it never resolves, it spirals. It teases you with the idea of structure, then undercuts it. The music seems to reflect the park's hubris. Nature modified beyond control. This distortion gives the Indominus a presence not just visually, but sonically. Even when it's off-screen, the eerie, scraping motif suggests it's out there, lurking, unpredictable, uncontainable. As the park begins to unravel, the score's pacing tightens. In action sequences, Giacchino orchestrates chaos with precision. During the gyrosphere sequence, where the boys are attacked in the open field, the music rises like a wave, building tension beat by beat. Strings pulse like a racing heart. Horns stab through the texture like incoming danger. It's not just fast-paced, it's tightly wound. And the score knows exactly when to cut out. There are moments of perfect silence, just long enough to make the audience hold its breath before the next sonic onslaught hits. Those sudden pauses aren't accidents. They're calculated punches of suspense. Giacchino knows silence can be louder than sound when placed at the right moment. And he uses it masterfully. One of the most emotionally resonant pieces in the entire score appears during the Apatosaurus scene. This is where Giacchino leans into the more tender, mournful side of the orchestra. As Claire and Owen find the injured dinosaur dying under the open sky, the music slows to a crawl. There's no grandeur here, just soft strings and a fragile piano melody. It's one of the few times the score completely steps back from spectacle and focuses purely on feeling. There's sorrow in every note, a musical lament for a creature that didn't ask to be created, much less hunted. It's a moment that doesn't need dialogue, because the music does all the talking. It's there to remind you that these aren't just monsters, they're living, breathing animals. And when they die, it should hurt. The scenes with Owen and the raptors are also layered with clever musical texture. Their training sessions and field deployments carry a militaristic rhythm, but not in a way that glorifies the violence. There's a tactical sharpness to the drums and strings, a sense of discipline that reflects Owen's control, limited as it may be, over these creatures. But there are also subtle emotional undercurrents in Blue's theme, especially in her interactions with Owen. Giacchino inserts delicate harmonic shifts that make the bond between them feel real and complex. It's not sentimental, but it's deeply personal. You don't hear a pet and owner theme. You hear something older, more primal, trust earned in a world that's forgotten how fragile trust is. The pterosaur attack on the main street is a showcase of raw, musical momentum. The scene explodes with kinetic energy, and the music rises to meet it. But even here, Giacchino avoids wall-to-wall noise. He lets the music surge, retreat, and surge again, like a storm rolling over the island. Every scream from the sky is matched by a spike in brass. Every near miss is punctuated by a sudden drop. The editing of this scene is sharp, and the music is choreographed to match it moment for moment. It doesn't compete with the visuals, it synchronizes with them. And then there's the climax, Blue and the T-Rex versus the Indominus Rex. This is where Giacchino unleashes everything. The music here is a full-throttle symphony. The horns bellow, the strings fly, the percussion crashes. There's grandeur, desperation, and triumph wrapped into one. But what makes it work isn't just the volume or the speed, it's the emotion. Giacchino lets the music cheer for the heroes. The raptors don't just attack, they rise. The T-Rex doesn't just roar, she reclaims her throne. And the score makes you feel every ounce of that glory. When the Mosasaurus leaps in to finish the Indominus, the music erupts like a final exclamation point. It's not just a dinosaur battle, it's an operatic crescendo. And it's earned. As the dust settles, the music returns to introspection. There's a gentle fade into soft piano and strings. We see blue disappear into the wilderness, and the score holds that moment just long enough to say goodbye. No words are needed. The music handles it all. The morning after the chaos is bathed in calm, but the melody still carries the weight of everything that's happened. It's not triumphant. It's thoughtful. And that's what makes it stick. Throughout Jurassic World, the soundtrack is a shapeshifter. It can be thunderous, eerie, tragic, or majestic, all within a few scenes. Giacchino's brilliance lies in his ability to blend homage with originality. He respects the musical foundation Williams built, but constructs something that belongs entirely to this new era. It never becomes overwhelming. It never drifts into noise. And it never stops working, even when you're not consciously hearing it. That's the beauty of it. It's always there, inside the moment, guiding your emotions without announcing itself. The score becomes the invisible storyteller behind every scene. Jurassic World might roar like a summer blockbuster, but behind the teeth and spectacle lies a surprisingly thoughtful web of themes that give the film depth far beyond its surface thrills. It's not just about dinosaurs breaking loose and chasing people around a park. It's a reflection of modern fears, human tendencies, and the constant clash between technology, nature, and our own ego. The film isn't trying to be a philosophical think piece, but it does plant rich, provocative ideas throughout the story that continue to echo long after the final roar fades. The genius of Jurassic World is that it uses a thrilling adventure format to ask weighty, uncomfortable questions about the world we're building, the values we're losing, and the consequences of our desire to play God. One of the central themes, and arguably the spine of the entire film, is the illusion of control. Every inch of Jurassic World is engineered to feel safe, seamless, and sanitized. Security systems, feeding schedules, invisible fences, and genetics all finely tuned to make it seem like the untamable has finally been tamed. It's a theme park fantasy where people believe they're above nature, where dinosaurs have been reduced to attractions with names and market value. But beneath all the polished glass and digital screens, there's a truth the film never lets us forget. Nature doesn't care about our systems. Claire, who spends much of the film operating from a place of corporate confidence and emotional detachment, slowly realizes this firsthand. Her journey isn't just physical, it's thematic. She learns the hard way that you can't spreadsheet your way out of catastrophe. The chaos isn't a glitch in the system, it's the natural order reasserting itself. The film suggests that the more we try to dominate nature, the more we blind ourselves to its unpredictability, and when that illusion shatters, the fallout is always worse. Closely tied to this is the film's critique of consumerism and spectacle culture. Jurassic World: The Park is a commentary on modern entertainment. How bigger, louder, and scarier have become the only metrics for success. Audiences are no longer impressed by a simple dinosaur. They need hybrids, genetically modified monsters, and thrilling new experiences. The creation of the Indominus Rex is a direct result of this demand. It's not a scientific breakthrough born out of curiosity, it's an attraction engineered to boost profits and generate headlines. The film cleverly frames the Indominus not just as a monster, but as a symbol of manufactured excess. It was built to be sensational, and like many real-world creations born out of marketing departments rather than ethical discussion, it ends up being dangerous because nobody fully understands what it is. This theme stretches further when you consider how people interact with the park. Guests take selfies with dinosaurs. Kids grow bored of the peaceful herbivores and run toward the scarier exhibits. Zach, early in the film, literally yawns at a display that would have left characters in the original film speechless. The film isn't just showing how far we've come, it's critiquing how quickly we forget. Wonder has been replaced with apathy. The once impossible has become mundane. The movie asks, what happens when humanity becomes numb to the extraordinary? What price do we pay when awe is no longer enough? The story also delves into humanity's obsession with domination, not just over nature, but over biology itself. The genetic manipulation that creates Indominus is presented not as a marvel of science, but a warning sign. It's not just about bringing extinct creatures to life anymore. It's about improving them, customizing them, designing predators to our specifications. There's something chillingly relevant about this idea, especially in an age where gene editing and biotech are evolving faster than ethics can keep up. Jurassic World doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it asks the right questions. Just because we can, should we? Where is the line between innovation and recklessness? What kind of world are we engineering when nature becomes a lab experiment? And then there's the subtle but powerful theme of identity, particularly unnatural or forced identity. The Indominus Rex is a creature with no natural ancestry, no social structure, no inherited behavior. It was spliced together in secret, raised in isolation, denied any semblance of family or ecosystem. It becomes a metaphor for unnatural evolution, something alive, intelligent, and lethal, yet completely without context. It lashes out, not just out of hunger, but confusion, rage, even loneliness. The film doesn't pity the Indominus, but it does paint it as more than a mindless beast. It's the byproduct of unnatural ambition. A creature that never had a chance to be anything else. In a way, its chaos is a mirror of what created it. Reckless human intervention. This theme extends into the treatment of the raptors, too. Owen respects them as animals with instincts and bonds, while others see them as tools, weapons to be directed. The moment they're betrayed by those they once trusted, they switch sides. Not because they're evil, but because the illusion of control is broken. Again, the film underlines the difference between training and understanding, between command and connection. The theme of reconnection, particularly familial and emotional, gives the story its human center. The subplot of Zack and Gray, estranged from their family and emotionally distant from each other, mirrors the larger theme of disconnection. Claire, too, is distant from her nephews, from Owen, from her own instincts. She's emotionally closed off, focused on numbers, operations, and success metrics. But as the park falls apart, those barriers crumble. The crisis forces everyone to drop their distractions and defenses. Zack starts protecting his brother. Claire starts protecting her family. Even Owen, whose bond with the raptors is grounded in mutual respect, shows vulnerability. The film suggests that true connection, whether between people or between species, only emerges when control is relinquished and trust is earned. It's a quiet theme, but a powerful one, and it gives weight to moments that might otherwise be buried in action. There's also a broader environmental message threaded through the chaos. The dinosaurs, for all their aggression and danger, are also victims. They didn't ask to be created, displayed, sold, or experimented on. They exist because humans wanted them to. And now they're hunted, manipulated, even starved for stimulation. Scenes like the Apatosaurus death sequence hit hard not just because they show suffering, but because they show the consequences of treating life as novelty. When Claire breaks down watching a gentle creature die in pain, the film isn't just giving her a moment of growth, it's confronting the audience with the cost of spectacle. The message is clear. When we treat living things like products, we inevitably end up destroying them, and ourselves. Ultimately, Jurassic World balances these themes beneath a layer of high-gloss entertainment. It doesn't preach. It provokes. It doesn't pause to deliver monologues on ethics or philosophy. It lets the disaster speak for itself. The broken fences, the rising body count, the emotional arc of the characters. All of it contributes to a larger message about the dangers of overreach, the fragility of ecosystems, and the human tendency to repeat mistakes with a glossier presentation. The visual effects and CGI in Jurassic World go beyond just creating giant creatures to gawk at. They build a fully immersive world that feels dangerously alive. From the moment the camera swoops over Isla Nublar and gives you that first glimpse of the fully functional Jurassic World theme park, the digital artistry is already at work, not just in the creatures, but in every inch of the environment. What's remarkable is how the VFX team didn't simply try to recreate the magic of Jurassic Park. They updated it, expanded it, and scaled it up to meet the expectations of a generation raised on cutting-edge visuals, while still retaining enough realism to make the impossible feel tangible. The dinosaurs, of course, are the stars of the show, and the visual effects artists treat them as living, breathing characters rather than just action props. Whether it's the lumbering, gentle movements of the apatosaurs or the whip-fast reflexes of the velociraptors, Each species has its own distinct physicality, its own behavior patterns, and crucially a sense of weight. The Indominus rex, the genetically engineered hybrid that anchors much of the film's tension, is especially striking, not just in its size or aggression but in the small details. Its skin texture shifts in lighting, its eyes register thought, and its interactions with the environment are calculated and intelligent. It doesn't just charge through the jungle. It uses its surroundings, it hides, it stalks, it outsmarts. That illusion of animal cunning is something no prosthetic or puppet could have fully achieved. This is where CGI earns its place. But the brilliance of Jurassic World lies in the way it combines its CGI with practical effects. Unlike many modern blockbusters that go full digital at the cost of tactile realism, this film makes room for both. In the scene where Claire and Owen comfort the dying Apatosaurus, the filmmakers used an animatronic built by Legacy Effects. You can feel the weight of that moment because the actors are physically touching the creature, running their hands over its skin, looking into its blinking eyes, reacting to its shallow breathing. It's a powerful emotional anchor that reminds you these animals aren't just CGI marvels, they're characters with a presence. Then seamlessly, the camera might shift to a wide shot where the rest of the herd, entirely digital, is shown grazing or fleeing in the distance. And you don't notice the transition. That's how well the visual effects and practical work are integrated. The environments are another key part of the visual storytelling. Jurassic World isn't just jungle and fences. It's a functioning theme park, complete with rides, shops, tourists, monorails, and staff. The visual effects had to fill in the gaps between physical sets and create an entire operational ecosystem. Digital extensions were used to add depth to the park's infrastructure, from massive aviary domes to towering paddock walls. These aren't just backdrops, they're part of the immersive illusion. You believe this place could exist because the details are so thoroughly imagined and layered into the world. Maps, holograms, fences, control panels, even trash bins and snack stands. Then there's the gyrosphere sequence, one of the standout set pieces of the film. Zack and Gray are rolling through an open plain inside a glass orb while various herbivorous dinosaurs roam peacefully. The dinosaurs in this sequence, including stegosaurs, ankylosaurs, and apatosaurs, are all CGI, but they move with such natural rhythm that they feel like part of the landscape. The interactions with the environment, the grass bending under their weight, the dust stirred up by their steps, are executed with surgical precision. When the Indominus suddenly enters the scene and tears through the herd, it doesn't just create chaos. It creates a complete shift in tone. You feel the danger not just from the screaming or the music, but because the visuals change. The camera becomes shakier. The lighting gets more intense. The ground interaction becomes more violent. The CGI doesn't just support the narrative, it tells the story. The pterosaur attack on the main plaza is another moment where the visual effects team had to juggle complexity with coherence. Dozens of creatures dive-bomb the crowd, crashing through glass, grabbing tourists, and turning a shopping district into a battlefield. This could have easily turned into visual noise, but the effects remain controlled. Each creature's path is distinct. The camera doesn't try to show everything at once. It picks moments and movements that give you spatial awareness. Practical stunts are used where possible, real people being yanked on wires or flung into water. And CGI is used to create the creatures doing the damage. The way the pterosaurs interact with their environment is crisp and believable. Even the feathers ruffle with wind physics, and their eyes focus in on targets with predatory clarity. It's a chaotic sequence, but you never feel lost. That's a testament to the effects artists understanding not just visuals, but pacing and story flow. Lighting is a huge player in selling CGI realism, and Jurassic World handles it with finesse. Many VFX-heavy films opt to keep their creatures in the dark, literally, because shadows and rain can hide imperfections. But here, dinosaurs are shown in broad daylight, walking through sunny fields, wading into lagoons, or running beneath glaring park lights. This choice is bold and it pays off. The dinosaurs don't just blend into the environment, they inhabit it. Their reflections are visible in the gyrosphere's glass. Their skin glistens with sweat and grime. Their shadows fall realistically across terrain. The artists clearly understood that lighting could make or break the illusion, and they approached it with almost obsessive realism. The final battle sequence is perhaps the most CGI-intensive moment of the film, featuring multiple creatures engaging in a nighttime showdown that spans city streets, the jungle, and the edge of the Mosasaurus lagoon. Blue the raptor, the T-Rex, and the Indominus Rex all clash in a symphony of claws, roars, and cinematic chaos. What's notable here is that each dinosaur has been animated with its own distinct fighting style. Blue is quick, clever, darting in and out. The T-Rex is brutal, all power and muscle. The Indominus is precise and ruthless. These differences in movement sell the realism even more than the visuals themselves. And when the Mosasaurus leaps from the water to deliver the final blow, it doesn't feel like an over-the-top moment. It feels inevitable, earned, and physically grounded, because the CGI has been building toward it all along with foreshadowing, scale, and atmosphere. The underwater sequences, brief as they are, also deserve mention. The Mosasaurus feeding show is a digital marvel. The splash, the water displacement, the sheer size of the creature emerging from the lagoon, all executed with flawless timing. When the splash hits the audience and the camera tilts to follow the spectacle, you feel like you're watching a real animal erupt from real water. That's not easy to fake. But again, it's not just about spectacle, it's about immersion. The VFX team makes you forget it's fake. The sheer volume of effects in Jurassic World is staggering, but what's more impressive is how unobtrusive it all is. You're not constantly marveling at the CGI, because you're too busy being swept up in the story. That's how you know the effects are working. They disappear into the experience. The set design and locations in Jurassic World are nothing short of a theme park fantasy turned fully immersive nightmare. What starts as a pristine, carefully engineered paradise quickly becomes a playground for chaos. And the brilliance of the production design is how effortlessly it shifts between the two. Every structure, every path, every security door and glass-paneled hallway has been crafted not only to look believable, but to sell the illusion that this is a real, operational park. A place that has existed long enough to become routine, popular, and almost boring. That's the trick. The settings make the extraordinary feel every day, until it all goes horribly wrong. From the very first wide shot of Isla Nublar, the design of Jurassic World feels massive and modern. The buildings are sleek, corporate, and overly polished. There's a clean, almost clinical feel to the visitor center with its towering glass facade, echoing the original Jurassic Park, while pushing the aesthetic further into luxury resort territory. This isn't a jungle outpost, it's a fully monetized vacation destination. The production design leans heavily into this idea, with little touches everywhere. Holographic exhibits, high-end retail stores, futuristic lab interiors, and even dinosaur petting zoos. The sets are designed to make the world feel self-sufficient. And that realism is what makes the eventual breakdown of order so satisfying to watch. You believe in the infrastructure, which makes it even more thrilling when it collapses. The Mosasaurus Arena, with its underwater viewing galleries and staged feeding shows, stands out as one of the most inventive pieces of set design. It's not just a cool location. It reflects the commercialization of the park's creatures. The glass windows, the rising platforms, the bleachers full of tourists. It's SeaWorld with teeth. And what's even more impressive is how the design shifts mood with the tone. Early on, it's a marvel of construction and innovation. By the film's climax, that same arena becomes a sight of terror, with shattering glass and deadly water. The production design doesn't change, it's our perception of it that does, and that shift is made possible because the environment is so believable in both contexts. The jungle areas are equally important, not only because they house many of the film's action scenes, but because they contrast so sharply with the manufactured safety of the park. When the characters leave the resort zone and venture into the paddocks or out-of-bounds territories, the tone changes instantly. The props shift from polished tech to military-grade gear, rusting fences and dirt-covered jeeps. The dense foliage, thick with mist and shadows, returns the story to a more primal, survivalist setting. These jungle locations aren't just decorative, they're characters in their own right. They obscure threats, build suspense, and return the narrative to its roots. Man versus nature, with nothing but instinct and luck to survive. One standout location is the raptor training paddock. It's gritty, practical, and full of subtle details that tell you this is a military experiment in progress, not a family-friendly attraction. The metal cages, control towers, feeding zones, and perimeter walls all scream containment. And yet they never feel strong enough. The setting gives you a visual cue that danger is barely held back by structure, and that any moment, the animals inside could overwhelm it. The design here is not just functional, it's thematic. It shows how fragile our sense of control really is. Then there's the Indominus paddock, cold, sterile, and ominous from the start. With its observation platforms and reinforced walls, it feels more like a supermax prison than an animal habitat. That's intentional. The production design makes it very clear. This creature isn't part of the park's ecosystem. It's an anomaly, something unnatural and dangerous, locked away from even the rest of the dinosaurs. The way the light never fully reaches the ground, the sense of isolation, and the concrete textures all combine to give it an eerie feel long before anything goes wrong. It's a place built to keep secrets. And it does. Even the minor sets serve a purpose. The control room, for instance, is a tech-heavy hub with enough screens and blinking lights to suggest constant monitoring and oversight. Yet it also feels disconnected from the rest of the park. This detachment plays into the film's broader themes. The illusion of control, the separation between those making decisions and those facing consequences on the ground. The more you look around, the more you realize that the production design has layered meaning into every monitor, chair, and keypad. It's not just where the staff works. It's where hubris lives. The gyrosphere loading dock, the monorail system, the backstage veterinary clinic. All these sets help fill out the illusion that this is a real, operational park. None of it feels like a movie set. It feels like a place you could tour, with functioning zones, park policies, and crowd control measures. The signage, the emergency protocols, even the souvenirs, it's all there. This kind of immersive, all-encompassing design makes the park's destruction feel earned. When dinosaurs break loose and tear through fences, the stakes are higher because the world being destroyed feels fully realized. There's also a clever use of vertical space throughout the park's design. The Indominus climbing the paddock wall, the monorail running above dense forest, the Mosasaurus rising from below. All these vertical movements aren't just cool action moments. They challenge the park's horizontal, neatly divided zones. The verticality disrupts order, breaks boundaries, and makes every space feel vulnerable. Again, that's the production design doing more than just looking good. It's advancing the story. In a film like this, where the central conflict revolves around what happens when artificial order collapses into natural chaos, the set design has to carry a huge part of the thematic load. It has to be believable enough that we invest in the park's operations, and versatile enough to become terrifying when the dinosaurs take over. Jurassic World nails this balance. The production team didn't just design cool locations. They built a believable ecosystem of human overconfidence and spectacle, and then let it unravel in the most cinematic way possible. Every prop, wall, cage, and control panel contributes to the illusion of a world that seems secure on the surface, but is always one claw swipe away from disaster. The dialogue and script in Jurassic World may be built on a foundation of action and spectacle, but they serve far more than just getting characters from one dino chase to another. What really makes the writing click is how it balances moments of scientific awe, corporate cynicism, emotional conflict, and wry humor, all without losing sight of its core mission: to entertain. It knows when to be serious, when to be funny, when to drop exposition, and when to just let a character say something cool. The words don't just drive the plot. They deepen the themes, reveal character dynamics, and at times, even comment on the film's own legacy and the real-world industry it's satirizing. From the very beginning, the script starts threading in sharp thematic contrasts. Zack and Gray arrive at the park and begin their adventure with wide-eyed excitement, but already their dialogue suggests a disconnect between themselves, between family members, between the guests and the reality of what the park truly is. Gray is enthusiastic, throwing facts about dinosaurs with childlike wonder, while Zack is dismissive and distracted, a teenager too cool for fossils. Their early banter establishes not only their relationship, but the generational contrast in how we experience wonder. It's clever in that it doesn't feel overly scripted. It feels like two brothers stuck with each other, saying exactly what two real kids in their situation might say. That naturalistic rhythm becomes important later. when their bond is tested and they begin to rely on each other emotionally. Then there's Claire, whose initial dialogue is filled with corporate jargon and sterile professionalism. When she talks about dinosaurs, she doesn't call them animals. She refers to them as assets. She speaks in business terms, measuring success in attendance spikes and profit margins. It's cold, calculated, and absolutely intentional. This isn't lazy writing, it's character design through dialogue. The way Claire speaks in the first half of the film defines how emotionally disconnected she's become. And the change in her tone as the crisis escalates, when she begins to express fear, urgency, and eventually compassion, is a reflection of her internal arc. She stops saying what's appropriate and starts speaking from instinct. And you notice the shift, not just in what she says, but how she says it. Owen, on the other hand, comes in swinging with rugged charm and skeptical realism. His dialogue is confident but grounded. He's not trying to impress anyone, he's trying to be understood. When he warns Claire about the Indominus Rex, he doesn't bury his points in scientific lingo. He says things plainly and often with a hint of sarcasm. One of his defining lines, "You just went and made a new dinosaur? Probably not a good idea," sums up not only his character but the entire premise of the movie in one sentence. His dialogue is peppered with dry humor and distrust, making him the emotional compass of the story. He's not there to deliver lectures. He's there to say what everyone else is afraid to admit, and he often does it with a smirk. The script also does something clever with humor. Rather than force in jokes at the expense of tension, it lets humor emerge naturally from the personalities. Lowry, the nerdy control room tech, is the best example. His sarcastic asides, his Jurassic Park t-shirt, and his awkward flirtations with Vivian all add levity, but they also serve a bigger purpose. He's the voice of nostalgia. Through his dialogue, the script pokes fun at itself, at the idea of the park being reopened, and at the corporate culture that's pushing spectacle over safety. His lines, while funny, also underline the film's core message. He represents the audience, skeptical, smart, and a little horrified that no one's learned from the past. There are also moments where the writing takes a more emotional turn. The scene with the dying Apatosaurus, where Claire and Owen kneel beside the creature and listen to its slowing breath, contains very little dialogue, but that silence and the few soft lines exchanged between the characters carry enormous weight. Claire's voice cracks as she touches the animal's skin. Owen's tone softens. There's no need for grand speeches or over-explaining. The script knows when to let moments breathe, to let visuals and emotions speak louder than words. That restraint makes those scenes hit harder. As for memorable lines, the film has several that stick. "If something chases you, run," Claire tells her nephews in a moment that somehow manages to be both funny and terrifying, because it distills everything about the park's failure into one ironic warning. Another standout is, "They're dinosaurs." Wow enough. Spoken by Lowry. It's a simple sentence, but it drives a knife into the heart of the film's central critique, that the pursuit of more has blinded people to what they already have. The Indominus exists because people got bored of real dinosaurs. That line brings it all into focus. And it lands because it's not shouted or dramatized, it's dropped quietly, with disappointment. Even the action scenes have snappy, purposeful dialogue. During the raptor hunt sequence, the brief commands and calls between Owen and the InGen team don't just add realism, they raise the tension. "Stand down, eyes on me, blue easy." These aren't throwaway lines. They're verbal cues in a dance between man and animal, trust and betrayal. When that trust breaks and the raptors turn, the sudden change in tone, panic replacing control, gives the scene its punch. It's not just visual chaos. It's emotional chaos, driven by the way the characters' words unravel along with their plans. The script also handles exposition better than most blockbuster fare. There's a lot of information that needs to be communicated. How the park works, how the dinosaurs were engineered, how the Indominus is different. But instead of dry info dumps, the writers weave it into conversation, arguments, and even sarcastic commentary. Dr. Wu, for example, reveals a lot of genetic detail while still sounding like someone with a stake in the outcome. He isn't just narrating, he's defending his work. That makes his exposition feel like character development rather than homework. Ultimately, the dialogue in Jurassic World does what all good writing should do. It reflects character, enhances theme, and keeps the audience engaged moment to moment. It's not trying to be Shakespeare, but it is smart, layered, and often surprisingly sharp. It juggles humor, dread, sentiment, and philosophy without missing a beat. You laugh when the characters laugh, tense up when they shout, and lean in when they whisper. The script is the spine holding together the chaos of the visuals, and it does so with style, purpose, and just enough bite to leave a mark. Jurassic World knows exactly what kind of movie it is, but that doesn't stop it from playing with expectations in clever ways. It proudly operates within the sci-fi action-adventure genre with a strong streak of creature horror. And while it embraces many conventions familiar to fans of the original Jurassic Park and blockbuster cinema, it doesn't just copy and paste. Instead, it ramps everything up, scale, stakes, spectacle, and injects modern anxieties and a fresh spin on what we think a dinosaur movie can be. It delivers the thrills audiences come for, but it does so with just enough self-awareness and invention to keep the formula alive, breathing, and occasionally snapping its jaws at tradition. The genre's foundations are all there. An isolated setting where nature has been manipulated for profit, a false sense of security built by arrogant humans, and an eventual breakdown that leads to a desperate struggle for survival. But Jurassic World turns that formula inside out in places. This isn't about scientists marveling at their creation for the first time. It's about what happens when wonder becomes routine, when the spectacle gets stale, and when audiences demand more than just a T-Rex stomping across the screen. That idea alone, spectacle fatigue, is a meta-commentary on blockbuster culture itself, and it gives the genre a sharp modern edge. The film essentially asks, what happens when dinosaurs aren't enough? The answer is the Indominus Rex, a genetically engineered nightmare that embodies all the worst instincts of corporate invention. It's a clever twist on the monster escapes trope because this monster was designed to be terrifying on purpose. That subversion, that the true danger isn't the natural dinosaurs but the artificial one, gives the film a distinct identity within the genre. Action is a major component, and Jurassic World leans into it with unrelenting energy. From the gyrosphere attack to the pterosaur invasion of the main street to the final Dino vs. Dino showdown, the action sequences are crafted with a mix of kinetic choreography and emotional stakes. But the action doesn't just exist to thrill. It evolves naturally from the story and often escalates unpredictably. The raptor chase, for example, begins as a military-style hunt, complete with night vision and motorcycles in formation, but flips dramatically when the raptors turn on their human handlers. That pivot creates tension and surprise within a scene that could have been routine. The film uses action not just to explode, but to disrupt expectations, making each encounter feel less like a genre checkbox and more like a story beat with consequences. Suspense is another genre pillar, and it's handled with surprising restraint at times. The film knows how to build tension before letting loose. Take the Indominus paddock sequence. It's not just about showing off the creature's power. It's about showing how smart, manipulative, and unpredictable it is. The scene plays out like a horror thriller. The creature disappears, the characters realize they've been tricked, and suddenly the walls come down. It's a classic setup, but the twist, Indominus faking her escape to lure humans inside, makes it feel fresh. Later, the jungle scenes recall the suspense of the original film, with shifting shadows, broken fences, and distant roars giving you just enough dread before the inevitable strike. The genre's horror roots are respected, but updated for an audience that's seen it all before. Then there's the humor, which is sprinkled throughout the film with a careful hand. It never undercuts the tension, but it does provide relief. Characters like Lowry, with his sarcastic commentary and ironic nostalgia, offer levity without becoming comic relief. Even Owen, with his dry wit and exasperated responses to Claire's corporate lingo, injects humor through character rather than punchlines. The humor feels earned, grounded in personality and situation. It's not slapstick or goofy, it's the kind of wit that makes the danger feel more human. It helps balance the genre mix, allowing the film to shift tones without losing momentum. Drama is also a key part of the genre balancing act, and while Jurassic World doesn't dive into melodrama, it does find time for emotional moments that elevate it beyond just a monster movie. The subplot with Zach and Gray, two brothers struggling with their parents' divorce, could have felt tacked on, but it mirrors the film's larger theme of disconnection between people, between humans and nature, and between what's real and what's manufactured. Claire's gradual shift from detached operations manager to protective aunt is another example of character-driven drama that works because it's supported by the genre structure, not competing with it. These arcs give the action weight. When characters scream or cry or fight to survive, it matters, because we've seen what they were like before the chaos hit. Of course, the film does play into some genre cliches, but it often does so knowingly. There's the big corporate villain, the overconfident military commander, the genius scientist with questionable ethics. These archetypes are present, but they're given enough dimension or twist to avoid feeling flat. Dr. Wu isn't just a mad scientist. He's calm, articulate, and deeply convinced he's helping shape the future. The InGen security team isn't just there for body count. They represent a misguided attempt to weaponize nature, turning the film into a warning not just about theme parks, but about militarized science. Even Claire, who begins as the classic career woman out of touch with nature, evolves into something much more complex by the end. The genre tropes are acknowledged, then bent just enough to keep things interesting. Perhaps the biggest genre subversion of all is how the film treats its dinosaurs. Yes, they're dangerous. Yes, they chase, eat, and stomp. But they're not mindless monsters. Blue and the raptors have loyalty, curiosity, and even empathy. The T-Rex, once the terror of the original film, returns here as a surprise ally. And the Indominus Rex? She's not evil. She's confused, angry, and tragically intelligent. These layers give the genre an emotional undertone it rarely gets credit for. It's not just man versus beast. It's man versus the consequences of his own ambition. In the end, Jurassic World doesn't try to escape its genre. It embraces it. But it does so with enough reinvention, commentary, and tonal precision to stand apart. It delivers the dino-sized action, the white-knuckle suspense, the laughs, and even a few heartfelt moments, all while poking at the genre's soft spots and asking, what happens when we stop fearing nature and start designing it for fun? It's a genre movie that knows exactly what it's doing, and that confidence makes all the difference. Jurassic World may look like a high-octane adventure packed with teeth, claws, and chaos, but under all the action is a surprisingly sharp lens focused on real-world social and cultural commentary. The film doesn't preach or slam the brakes for a message. It builds its critiques directly into the world, the characters, and the very concept of the park itself. It's a popcorn movie with its eyes wide open, quietly digging into our obsession with spectacle, our corporate-driven culture, our treatment of animals and science, and even the way we consume entertainment itself. At the heart of the film's commentary is the idea that awe has become commodified. Jurassic World, unlike the original Jurassic Park, isn't a dangerous experiment in progress. It's a fully operational success story that's already grown stale in the eyes of the public. Dinosaurs aren't enough anymore. The guests want bigger, louder, scarier. They want attractions with more teeth. This pressure pushes the park's scientists to invent the Indominus Rex, a monster built not by nature, but by market research. It's not just a dinosaur. It's a Frankenstein's beast stitched together with parts designed for maximum consumer impact. This reflects a very real-world trend where innovation is often driven not by necessity or ethics, but by audience demand and short-term profits. The Indominus becomes a symbol of what happens when the line between science and entertainment is erased, and the audience becomes addicted to escalation. The film also takes aim at the corporate world. From branding deals that plaster dinosaurs with product sponsorships to the obsession with attendance numbers and quarterly gains, Jurassic World is dripping with satire. Claire represents the face of this polished, number-driven culture at the beginning. Her dialogue is laced with business buzzwords, and she talks about living animals as assets and investments. The film subtly critiques how corporate environments can strip meaning and empathy out of things that are, at their core, alive and unpredictable. It's not just about dinosaurs. It's about how companies turn everything into a commodity, whether it's a rare animal, a natural habitat, or even a guest experience. The park is essentially Disneyland with teeth, and the film doesn't let us forget that even paradise can be corrupted by the bottom line. Another layer of commentary lies in the film's depiction of science and genetic engineering. Jurassic World doesn't reject science outright. It highlights its brilliance and power, but it does shine a spotlight on the arrogance that sometimes accompanies technological advancement. Dr. Wu's casual attitude toward manipulating DNA, and his justifications for blending different species to create new animals, echo real debates about the ethics of biotechnology, genetic modification, and artificial intelligence. The question isn't whether we can do something, but whether we should. And in the world of Jurassic World, that question is often ignored until it's far too late. This isn't just a science gone wrong tale. It's a reflection of the way progress can outpace wisdom when profit is the real driver. Then there's the military subplot, which adds yet another layer of cultural critique. Vincent D'Onofrio's character, Hoskins, sees the raptors not as animals but as weapons. His dream of using them in combat zones turns the park's scientific marvels into potential military tools. This represents a very real-world phenomenon: the temptation to turn innovation into power. Whether it's drones, robotics, or AI, new technologies are often viewed through the lens of defense before ethics. The film doesn't dive too deeply into geopolitics, but it doesn't need to. The implication is clear. If something powerful exists, someone will try to weaponize it. The dinosaurs are just the latest casualty in humanity's long history of exploitation. Gender roles and expectations also get a subtle nod in the film's character arcs, particularly through Claire. At the start, she's the typical high-powered executive, cold, emotionally detached, and wearing heels in the jungle. She's mocked for it. But what's interesting is that the film doesn't punish her for being a career woman. Instead, it allows her to evolve on her own terms. She becomes more emotionally connected, more protective, and more hands-on. Not by giving up her authority, but by realizing the importance of empathy, instinct, and personal responsibility. It's not a simple arc of becoming maternal. It's about regaining her humanity in a world that's automated and scheduled every inch of life. Her transformation isn't just character growth. It's a commentary on how modern systems can strip individuals of connection, and how crisis can sometimes reconnect us to our deeper selves. Even the theme of family is explored through a socially conscious lens. Zach and Gray's subplot about their parents' impending divorce feels grounded and real. Their journey through the park isn't just a survival story. It's a metaphor for how children experience instability and try to hold things together when the world around them starts to fracture. The film doesn't hammer the point, but it gives just enough space for that dynamic to resonate. The idea of finding strength in chaos, of siblings sticking together, and discovering what really matters, becomes a small but meaningful thread in the larger tapestry. There's also something to be said about the way the film critiques consumer behavior. Guests in Jurassic World aren't there to learn, they're there to be thrilled. They're bored by Triceratops. They need feeding shows, holograms, extreme encounters. The park delivers, constantly innovating to keep visitors engaged. But that hunger for entertainment becomes dangerous. The pterosaur attack in the plaza is a chaotic, almost satirical moment. Tourists run screaming through a space that was designed to feel safe and magical, now overrun by flying predators. It's as if the park's own marketing has turned on them. The guests demanded more, and now they're being eaten by it. The cultural commentary doesn't just live in the script, it's baked into the DNA of the film itself. The way characters treat the dinosaurs mirrors how people treat nature in the real world. Either as a threat to be conquered, a product to be packaged, or an attraction to be sold. Few treat them with genuine respect. That lack of respect leads to disaster. It's not a subtle metaphor. The film is showing us what happens when humans try to control life, bend it to their will, and then act surprised when it pushes back. Even the ending offers commentary. When the park is in ruins and the survivors stand watching as the dinosaurs reclaim the landscape, there's no triumphant music or celebratory dialogue. There's just silence and awe. It's as if the world is being reset, not by science, but by nature itself. The message isn't heavy-handed, but it lingers. Humanity built something incredible, pushed too far. And now the creatures we once viewed as entertainment are walking freely through the wreckage of our ambition. So yes, Jurassic World is a thrilling, effects-driven blockbuster, but underneath all the running and roaring, it's also asking serious questions about how we live, how we consume, how we innovate, and how we relate to the natural world. And it does it all without slowing down the ride. The commentary is baked into the very bones of the story, just like the dinosaurs. Jurassic World knows exactly how to pull its audience into the experience and keep them locked in from the first beat to the last roar. This is a film that thrives on its ability to spark excitement, stir nostalgia, drop jaws, and then surprise you with little stabs of emotion you weren't expecting in a dinosaur disaster epic. It doesn't just serve up spectacle. It builds a roller coaster of reactions, constantly shifting gears to keep you entertained, involved, and emotionally invested. Whether you're watching for the thrills, the characters, the dinosaurs, or the childhood memories, it knows how to hook you. And more importantly, it knows how to keep you. From the opening sequence, there's a slow but deliberate build that draws you in with wonder. A new dinosaur is hatching. The park is open. Everything seems calm, almost too calm. That's intentional. The audience, just like the visitors inside the park, is lulled into a false sense of security. The film plays on your desire to see something amazing. And then it flips everything. As soon as the Indominus Rex begins to toy with its paddock, the tension ratchets up and never really lets go. The film is a series of tight coils and explosive payoffs, keeping you on edge with the suspense of what's coming next. You don't watch passively, you lean in, grip the armrest, and forget you're watching something fictional. But beyond just the thrill of the action, Jurassic World knows how to push emotional buttons. The scene with the dying Apatosaurus, for instance, hits like a brick wall in the middle of all the chaos. It's quiet. It's tender. And it reminds the audience that these aren't just monsters, they're animals. Claire's moment of vulnerability, running her hand over the creature's rough skin, humanizes her in a way that spreadsheets and security briefings never could. For many viewers, it's a surprisingly touching moment that adds heart to the spectacle. It's a reminder of the original Spielberg magic. Awe and empathy, right in the middle of the mayhem. Then you have moments of genuine excitement that feel like communal reactions. When the T-Rex is released near the end of the film, it's not just a story beat, it's a full-blown cheer-worthy moment. You don't need a character to explain it. The music swells, the gate creaks open, and the queen returns. This isn't just a dinosaur stepping onto a battlefield, it's the return of a legend. For longtime fans, it's a payoff years in the making. And even for newcomers, it's a cathartic surge of energy, the kind of sequence that makes people clap in theaters, yell at the screen, or rewind the scene at home just to feel that adrenaline again. There's also the Raptor Squad. Watching Owen ride his motorcycle through the jungle alongside his trained pack of velociraptors is undeniably one of the coolest and most memorable images in modern blockbuster cinema. The audience doesn't question the logic of it. They embrace it, because it's delivered with full confidence. It taps into that childhood fantasy of controlling the wildest creatures imaginable, and turns it into something visual, fast, and pulse-pounding. It's the kind of moment that gets burned into your brain, the kind of moment people talk about the next day, the kind that earns repeat viewings. But it's not just about noise and visuals. The film also slips in humor that hits its mark without breaking tension. Lowry's dry sarcasm, Claire's high-heeled sprinting, Owen's deadpan responses. These moments don't just make you laugh. They make the characters feel real. They create small emotional breaks that reset the tension just enough to keep the film's pacing alive. The balance between life-or-death urgency and perfectly timed wit is crucial to keeping the audience engaged over 2 hours of non-stop escalation. The film gives you permission to laugh, then seconds later dares you to scream. There are also scenes that invite debate. Should dinosaurs be weaponized? Was the Indominus a necessary evolution, or an inevitable mistake? Was Claire irresponsible, or just a product of the corporate system she was trapped in? These are questions that linger after the credits roll. They don't bog down the film while you're watching, but they give it fuel for conversation. Fans leave the theater arguing over favorite scenes, best dinosaur moments, and whether Blue is the real hero. That's the kind of engagement that extends far beyond the runtime. You're not just consuming. You're interacting with the ideas and the characters. Nostalgia plays a massive role in how the audience connects, but it's handled with care. The film doesn't just recycle old beats from Jurassic Park, it reframes them. The return of the original visitor center, covered in vines and memories, is a perfect example. It's not just fan service. It's a symbolic moment where the past literally becomes part of the escape route. The old T-Rex skeleton, the when dinosaurs ruled the Earth banner. It all ties back to emotional roots while pushing the story forward. These callbacks don't just make fans smile. They remind them why they fell in love with this franchise in the first place. Even casual viewers who might not be diehard dinosaur fans find plenty to connect with. Whether it's the sibling dynamic between Zack and Gray, the tension of watching nature rebel against human control, or the sheer awe of seeing massive creatures brought to life, the film taps into universal emotions. Fear, wonder, panic, humor, courage. It cycles through them all, often within the same scene. What makes Jurassic World such a success in terms of audience engagement is how layered the emotional experience is. It's not a single-note thrill ride. It's a blend of excitement and empathy, shock and nostalgia, chaos and catharsis. It pulls you in with the promise of dinosaurs and keeps you there with characters you care about, moments that surprise you, and scenes that demand to be seen again. You don't just watch Jurassic World. You ride it. You feel it. And long after it ends, it stays with you, not just as a film, but as an experience you want to revisit and talk about again and again. When stacking Jurassic World against other entries in the Dino franchise, as well as other big-budget monster flicks, or even Colin Trevorrow's own filmography, it becomes clear that this film isn't just another roar in the jungle. It's a strategic evolution. It knows its roots, knows the expectations, and knows exactly what buttons to push to make both new audiences and longtime fans feel like they're stepping into something familiar, but turned up to 11. This isn't just a sequel. It's a reboot without starting over. A reinvention without a reset. A film that boldly says, what if we actually open the park? Within the Jurassic Park franchise, Jurassic World occupies a unique space. It isn't chasing the shadow of the original Spielberg masterpiece, so much as it's standing on its shoulders and shouting into the future. The 1993 classic is still the gold standard when it comes to tension, subtlety, and groundbreaking visual effects. And it had the distinct advantage of introducing dinosaurs to audiences in a way that felt genuinely new. Spielberg's original was a slow-burn thriller that built its suspense moment by moment. When the T-Rex appeared, it was earned. It was seismic. By contrast, Jurassic World knows you've seen the T-Rex. It knows you've seen raptors open doors and Gallimimus stampede. So it doesn't hold back, it gives you more. More species. More danger. More scale. Where Jurassic Park whispered, Jurassic World yells. And it works because it doesn't try to be a copy, it tries to be the next phase. Compared to The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World clearly swings with more confidence and style. While The Lost World tried to double down on the chaos by bringing dinosaurs into suburban settings, and Jurassic Park 3 mostly acted as a lean rescue mission with a new Spinosaurus in the mix, Jurassic World brings the concept back to the core. The park is open. That idea alone gives it the edge. It introduces a controlled environment that inevitably spirals into chaos, which was the original dream and nightmare that the first film only teased. It takes a franchise built on closed doors and forbidden zones and swings them wide open for tourists, kids, executives, and disaster. This setting immediately makes the stakes bigger, the crowd reactions more intense, and the visuals more elaborate. Looking beyond the Jurassic universe, if you stack Jurassic World next to other creature features, films like King Kong, Godzilla, or even Pacific Rim, you start to see how it distinguishes itself through tone and concept. Where Godzilla tends to lean into global destruction and giant-scale apocalyptic threats, Jurassic World keeps things grounded within the relatively confined space of a theme park. That limited setting creates intimacy and chaos. You're not watching buildings collapse in nameless cities. You're watching tourists run through main streets, kids hide in laboratories, and security teams scramble through foliage. There's something personal about that. It's monster mayhem, but you feel closer to it. What sets Jurassic World apart from something like King Kong or Skull Island is the interplay between science fiction and corporate satire. This isn't just a cautionary tale about man versus nature. It's a critique of modern consumerism, genetic manipulation, and corporate greed, all wrapped in a sleek adventure film. The idea that guests are bored by actual dinosaurs and demand hybrids is something no other creature feature has dared to explore. It makes you part of the problem. You came for dinosaurs? Here's a smarter, meaner, invisible one with camouflage, thermal masking, and a body count. The film holds up a mirror to blockbuster culture and dares you to flinch. If you look at Colin Trevorrow's other work, Jurassic World feels like a leap in scale and ambition. Before this, his most notable film was Safety Not Guaranteed, a quirky, heartfelt indie sci-fi dramedy with time travel themes and an offbeat tone. It's a quiet, character-driven film with very little visual effects and a lot of emotional subtext. So for Trevorrow to jump from that to a multi-million-dollar dinosaur epic might seem like a stretch, but that indie heart actually helps. You can feel it in the character dynamics, especially in how Claire and Owen grow, or how Zach and Gray bond. There's emotional DNA from Safety Not Guaranteed buried beneath the spectacle, connection, trust, and the messiness of human behavior. Trevorrow directs Jurassic World with a sense of playfulness and homage. He's clearly drawing from Spielberg's visual language. Those sweeping crane shots, the slow build to a reveal, the way chaos erupts with momentum. But he also brings in a modern pacing and sharper wit. His version of the franchise doesn't just rehash. It reinvents, often by poking at the very formula it's using. The park has evolved. The dinosaurs have evolved. The storytelling has evolved. Even the genre expectations have evolved. It's action-adventure with teeth, yes, but also commentary with claws. And if you measure it against other franchise reboots, think Star Wars, The Force Awakens, Mad Max, Fury Road, or Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Jurassic World stands comfortably among them as a smart, high-energy revival that knows what made the original great, but isn't afraid to repackage it for a new generation. It doesn't pretend it can outdo Jurassic Park, but it does bet that spectacle, character chemistry, and a few sharp jabs at modern culture are enough to earn its own roar in the lineup. So in the vast jungle of action blockbusters and legacy sequels, Jurassic World doesn't just survive. It thrives by leaning into what the audience wants, while also nudging them to question why they want it. It's familiar enough to feel like home and bold enough to shake the walls. Whether you're in it for the teeth, the nostalgia, or the critique of spectacle itself, it delivers on multiple fronts while planting its own flag in the genre. And that, in a franchise this big, is no small feat. Jurassic World may be packed with teeth-gnashing dinosaurs, flashy action, and thrilling escapes, but lurking beneath the spectacle is a rich layer of symbolism and metaphor that gives the film unexpected depth. From the park itself to the genetically engineered Indominus Rex, and even to the smallest character gestures and visual callbacks, this movie is constantly saying something more than what's on the surface. It invites viewers to not just watch the chaos unfold, but to read into it, to spot the metaphors hiding in plain sight and recognize the bigger ideas stitched into the DNA of the story, much like the dinosaurs themselves. The most obvious and overarching metaphor in the film is the Indominus Rex itself. She's not just a dinosaur. She's a manifestation of corporate greed, media oversaturation, and society's obsession with bigger, louder, newer. She was created because audiences were no longer impressed by natural dinosaurs. In a way, she represents the modern blockbuster. Engineered for spectacle, designed for mass appeal, built by committee to guarantee attention. She's a monster made to satisfy the demands of a culture that's forgotten how to appreciate the wonder of nature. But like any artificially designed product pushed too far, she turns on her creators. The metaphor here is razor sharp. The very thing meant to impress us is the thing that ends up destroying everything. Then there's the park itself, a gleaming, fully functional Jurassic theme park, polished with luxury, entertainment, and capitalism. But just under the surface, it's teetering on disaster. The way the park operates mirrors the real-world entertainment industry. Attractions are constantly updated. Scientists are pushed to outdo themselves. Executives speak in metrics and marketing terms. And the guests, like modern media consumers, wander from one thrill to the next with short attention spans. The park becomes a metaphor for excess. How our pursuit of perfection, control, and profitability has blinded us to the dangers of tampering with forces we don't fully understand. The calm, sanitized surface hides a wild, primal chaos that's always waiting to break through. Sound familiar? That's modern society in a nutshell. Claire's transformation is another symbolic arc. At the start of the film, she's all about order, efficiency, and control. Her wardrobe alone symbolizes her role: white suit, heels, hair perfectly tied. She's a personification of the sterile corporate world, focused on numbers, branding, and bottom lines. But as the park collapses and she's forced into the wild, her transformation mirrors the larger theme of reconnecting with what's real. She gets dirty. She tears her clothes. She starts making decisions with instinct rather than spreadsheets. It's not just survival, it's symbolic rebirth. She sheds the armor of professionalism and embraces vulnerability, empathy, and chaos. By the end, Claire isn't just saving her nephews, she's reclaiming a part of herself that's been buried under corporate polish. Owen, in contrast, serves as the symbolic opposite of Claire. He represents intuition, respect for nature, and a hands-on understanding of the living world. His bond with the raptors isn't built through control. It's built through trust, eye contact, and mutual recognition. Owen's scenes with Blue, in particular, are loaded with unspoken symbolism. Blue isn't just a trained predator. She's a mirror of Owen's worldview. When she hesitates before attacking him after siding with the Indominus, it's a pivotal symbolic moment. It shows the battle between artificial loyalty and natural instinct. The raptor chooses Owen, not because she's programmed to, but because she recognizes something real in him. It's nature resisting manipulation. It's a metaphor for trust over programming. The raptors themselves are layered with symbolism. Once seen as the ultimate predators in the original Jurassic Park, they're now portrayed with more complexity. They're not just killers, they're intelligent, emotional, and social creatures. Their evolving role in the franchise, from villains to uneasy allies, represents our shifting relationship with the natural world. We're beginning to see animals not just as threats or resources, but as sentient beings capable of relationships and loyalty. The idea of training raptors is provocative, but the film cleverly undercuts the fantasy by showing how thin that control really is. These creatures are not pets, and the illusion of dominance shatters the moment the Indominus asserts itself as the bigger predator. That moment becomes a symbolic reminder. Nature doesn't stay in a box, no matter how well you think you've sealed the lid. Even smaller details carry symbolic weight. The old visitor center from the original film, now overgrown and abandoned, becomes a visual metaphor for legacy and forgotten history. When the kids stumble upon it, it's like rediscovering buried truth. The ruins of past hubris. The dusty "when dinosaurs ruled the earth" banner is still there, serving as a chilling reminder that history repeats itself. That entire scene works on multiple levels. It's fan service, yes, but it's also a ghost story, a reckoning with the past that the new park chose to ignore. Nature remembers, even when the brochures don't. The Mosasaurus is another subtle piece of metaphorical storytelling. This giant aquatic predator is used for flashy entertainment in the park, like a prehistoric SeaWorld attraction. But when it leaps out of the lagoon at the climax to devour the Indominus, it becomes a symbol of deep, untamed power. The raw force of nature reclaiming dominance over synthetic creation. It's not just a surprise attack. It's poetic justice. The creature that was displayed like a circus trick ends up being the one that restores natural order. It's the metaphorical hand of the wild, pulling down the unnatural monster built by human ambition. Even the children, Zach and Gray, represent different symbolic elements. Gray is wide-eyed, emotional, curious. He clings to the wonder of dinosaurs, remembers their names, and believes in their majesty. He symbolizes innocence and the human desire to connect with nature. Zach, meanwhile, begins the story detached, skeptical, glued to his phone. He embodies disconnection and cynicism. But as the story progresses and the danger becomes real, the brothers find common ground. They rediscover trust, family, and purpose. Their arc is a symbolic commentary on how crisis often forces people to strip away distractions and rediscover what matters. One recurring motif throughout the film is the illusion of control. Everything in the park is designed around containment: fences, cameras, protocols. But time and again these systems fail. The film returns to the theme that control is always temporary. And the more you believe in it, the harder nature will crash through it. This theme echoes visually. Whether it's raptors breaking ranks, the Indominus vanishing from her paddock, or guests running screaming from Main Street. Every fence is a ticking clock. Every plan is just a sketch waiting to be torn apart. That idea, that control is a fantasy, isn't just a plot device. It's the core metaphor of the entire franchise, and Jurassic World updates it for a digital, corporate age. So beneath all the dino roars, explosions, and chase scenes, Jurassic World is constantly weaving in symbols and metaphors about human nature, technology, power, legacy, and our increasingly complicated relationship with the natural world. When Jurassic World stomped into theaters in 2015, it wasn't just launching a new chapter in the franchise. It was reviving a cultural juggernaut that had been sleeping since Jurassic Park 3 back in 2001. And it didn't tiptoe back onto the scene. It roared. It came armed with bigger dinosaurs, bolder set pieces, and a crystal-clear mission. To bring the franchise into the modern blockbuster age while honoring the DNA of the original. This wasn't just a sequel. It was a legacy event. A film that stood on the shoulders of its predecessors and dared to ask, what happens when the dream of Jurassic Park actually works? To fully appreciate where Jurassic World fits in the franchise, you have to look back at where it all started. In 1993, Jurassic Park changed everything. Spielberg combined cutting-edge CGI, animatronics, and razor-sharp suspense to bring dinosaurs back to life in a way no one had seen before. But more than just jaw-dropping visuals, that film was laced with cautionary philosophy, chaos theory, the unpredictability of nature, the hubris of man playing God. It was popcorn wrapped in thought-provoking packaging. The sequels, The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, continued the story but never quite recaptured that mix of magic and menace. By the early 2000s, the franchise felt like it had run out of steam. Then came Jurassic World, and everything changed. Instead of simply picking up the pieces or pretending the past didn't happen, Jurassic World cleverly incorporates the franchise's history directly into its story. The park isn't just a new setting. It's the long-promised realization of John Hammond's original vision. It's everything he dreamed of fully realized. Monorails, gift shops, corporate sponsorships, and yes, dinosaurs that don't immediately eat everyone, at least at first. By building this fully operational theme park, the film isn't just expanding the world. It's actively responding to the previous films. It's asking, what if we didn't learn from our mistakes? What if we took the same bad idea and made it profitable? This self-awareness is critical. The filmmakers knew audiences had seen the science gone wrong trope before, so instead of avoiding it, they built it into the structure of the movie. The entire premise of the Indominus Rex is based on the assumption that people are no longer impressed by normal dinosaurs. This is a meta-commentary on blockbuster filmmaking itself, reflecting the pressure on Hollywood to constantly up the ante. So within the franchise context, Jurassic World becomes both a continuation and a critique. It honors the past while exposing the very mindset that leads to repeated disaster. The film also repositions the relationship between humans and dinosaurs. In Jurassic Park, dinosaurs were majestic and terrifying, a glimpse into deep time. By Jurassic World, they've become familiar, almost mundane. That shift is deliberate and powerful. It suggests that humanity, when given something miraculous, will always find a way to turn it into background noise. The franchise, through this lens, becomes a cautionary tale not just about science, but about human attention spans. What once inspired awe now needs to be genetically upgraded to hold our interest. That's a heavy bit of commentary for a movie about genetically engineered theme park monsters. And it works beautifully. Character-wise, Jurassic World introduces a new cast while keeping the legacy alive. Claire, Owen, Zach, and Gray are new faces, but their arcs mirror those of the original characters in clever ways. Claire's evolution from cold executive to empathetic protector echoes the emotional transformation of Dr. Grant in the first film. Owen's respectful bond with the raptors draws a line back to Hammond's early desire for harmony with nature, albeit one that's now filtered through military and corporate interests. And the kids, just like Lex and Tim, become both emotional anchors and symbols of innocence caught in the crossfire. There's continuity in spirit, even as the names and faces change. The nods to Jurassic Park are everywhere, and they're more than just Easter eggs. They're connective tissue. The old visitor center, the night vision goggles, the T-Rex roar, it's all designed to pull longtime fans back into the fold, while giving new audiences a fresh playground to explore. The film doesn't erase history. It builds on it. It understands that nostalgia is powerful, but that it needs to be paired with innovation to survive. This is not just a throwback, it's a generational baton pass. Even the world building expands on the previous lore. We learn more about InGen's darker ambitions, the possibility of militarizing dinosaurs, and the ethical rot hiding beneath the shiny glass walls of the new park. Where Jurassic Park was content to warn us about the dangers of playing God, Jurassic World asks what happens when God gets a marketing team and a 5-year expansion plan. It deepens the mythology, showing that the corporate engine behind the park is just as dangerous as the creatures it breeds. In terms of franchise contribution, Jurassic World revitalized a brand that many believed had gone extinct. It brought dinosaurs back to the forefront of pop culture, reintroduced iconic themes with a modern twist, and paved the way for a new trilogy. Without this film's success, the sequels Fallen Kingdom and Dominion would never have happened. It reignited interest not just in the story, but in the ethical, scientific, and philosophical questions that have always made this series more than just monsters chasing people. So in the grand timeline of the Jurassic saga, Jurassic World is both a resurrection and a revolution. It doesn't ignore history, it repurposes it. It doesn't just bring dinosaurs back to life. It breathes new energy into a beloved franchise, reshaping the story for a modern age while keeping one eye locked on the past. It's not just a chapter, it's a statement. And in the larger history of blockbuster cinema, it marks the moment when nostalgia and innovation collided, with spectacular, roaring results. When Jurassic World stomped into cinemas in 2015, it didn't just roar at the box office. It shattered expectations like Rex smashing through a glass enclosure. Universal Pictures poured a colossal estimated $150 million into the film's production budget, a number that might make your eyes widen until you see what that investment bought. Every cent shows up on screen, from the lifelike dinosaurs to the sprawling park vistas, the elaborate set pieces, and the seamless fusion of practical effects and CGI. This wasn't a case of just throw money at it and hope for the best. This was money meticulously spent to create a modern spectacle that could compete with the likes of Avengers and Star Wars in the 2010s blockbuster race. And the gamble paid off in the most dramatic way possible. Jurassic World didn't just perform well, it exploded. It roared past $500 million globally in its opening weekend alone, becoming the first film ever to do so at the time. Domestically, it devoured over $650 million. Globally, it stormed past the $1 billion mark, and didn't stop until it had chewed up around $1.67 billion worldwide. It became the highest-grossing film in the franchise, outpacing even Spielberg's original Game Changer, and briefly held the title for the third highest-grossing film of all time. It turned into a phenomenon. This wasn't just a movie, it was an event. Marketing played a monstrous role in fueling that success. Universal went all in, treating the movie less like a summer flick and more like a once-in-a-generation return to cinematic legend. Trailers were everywhere, nostalgia was weaponized in the best way possible, and merchandise flooded stores like a raptor pack on the loose. There were Lego sets, video games, fast food tie-ins, theme park collaborations, and even luxury brand promotions. The campaign struck a delicate balance between honoring the legacy of Jurassic Park and presenting this new chapter as the ultimate evolution of the franchise. Whether you were a 90s kid with memories of the first film or a teenager discovering the park for the first time, the marketing made it feel essential. But what really turned this into a box office beast was the buzz. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. Audiences came out of theaters talking not just about how cool the dinosaurs looked, but about the experience, the thrills, the Raptor Squad, the return of the T-Rex, the Indominus, the final showdown. It became one of those rare movies that you had to see just to be part of the conversation. That kind of cultural saturation doesn't happen unless a film strikes the right chord across multiple demographics. Kids, adults, longtime fans, first-timers, it reached them all. And that gave it legs at the box office, long after the opening weekend hysteria faded. Another key to its financial domination was timing. The summer release window was perfect. It had enough distance from other blockbusters to claim a few weekends all to itself, and it hit during a period when audiences were hungry for both nostalgia and spectacle. The superhero fatigue hadn't fully set in yet, and the idea of a fully functioning dinosaur theme park captured imaginations in a way few other properties could. It wasn't trying to be dark or edgy, it was promising awe, wonder, and chaos, all wrapped up in a PG-13 adventure that could appeal to families, teens, and grown-up fans alike. The international market was also a massive part of the story. China in particular showed up in full force, drawn by the visual spectacle and the universal appeal of dinosaurs running wild. The film's emphasis on visuals over heavy dialogue meant it traveled well across language barriers, and the global themes of corporate excess and nature fighting back were broadly relatable. Universal knew this going in, and they built a film that would play just as well in Beijing as it did in Boston. Even the relatively modest production budget compared to other billion-dollar behemoths like Avengers. Age of Ultron made its profit margins all the more impressive. That $150 million base cost, though substantial, was well below the budgets of some of its competitors. The return on investment was staggering. It was the kind of financial performance that not only greenlit a trilogy, but turned the franchise into one of Universal's crown jewels, right alongside Fast and Furious and Despicable Me. And let's not forget that beyond just selling tickets, Jurassic World revived interest in an entire brand. It boosted park attractions, reignited interest in dinosaur merchandise, and laid the groundwork for sequels, animated series, and cross-platform storytelling. It wasn't just a box office win. It was a full-fledged resurrection. A roar heard not just in theaters, but in boardrooms and across media platforms worldwide. In short, the film's budget wasn't just wisely spent. It was a blueprint for how to turn nostalgia, blockbuster filmmaking, and modern marketing into an unstoppable global force. Jurassic World didn't just earn money. It rewrote the rules for what a legacy sequel could be. It proved that you can bring back a beloved property, amplify it with new energy and scale, and still keep audiences lining up like it's 1993 all over again. If you're looking to dive back into the world of Jurassic World, or maybe you're planning your very first visit to Isla Nublar, there's more than one gateway into the park. The film has long since left theaters, but its presence in the digital jungle is just as strong as a rampaging T-Rex. Whether you're streaming at home with surround sound that rumbles like dinosaur footsteps, or renting for a movie night that deserves a little prehistoric flair, the options are out there. And if you're someone who wants the biggest impact possible, the format you choose absolutely matters. For those who want the easiest ticket into the park, streaming platforms are your best friend. Jurassic World frequently shows up on major services that house big studio content, especially the ones partnered with Universal Pictures. These platforms often include the film as part of a subscription package, so you might just stumble upon it while browsing and suddenly find yourself wrapped in jungle chaos without even planning it. If you want to make it part of a marathon, it's often available alongside the other films in the franchise, giving you the full evolution of dinosaur drama from Jurassic Park to Dominion in one epic binge. Digital rental is another solid option, especially for viewers who like more control over their movie experience. On-demand services let you rent or buy the film in standard, HD, or 4K quality, which is where the real magic happens. Watching Jurassic World in 4K with HDR on a large screen brings out every scale, snarl, and explosive action beat. The visual clarity turns the jungle foliage into living texture, and makes the Indominus Rex feel like it's going to burst right out of your screen. Pair it with a good sound system, and you'll feel the rumble of the raptor's feet or the haunting bellow of the T-Rex right in your chest. It's the closest thing to having a front row seat to the chaos without actually being chased by dinosaurs. For physical media enthusiasts, the film is also available in Blu-ray and Ultra HD Blu-ray editions, often packaged with bonus features like behind-the-scenes footage, director commentary, and visual effects breakdowns. These extras are a goldmine for fans who want to understand how the magic was made. You get to see how animatronics were blended with CGI, how they choreographed those epic raptor scenes, and how the team balanced practical sets with green screen madness. Watching the movie is thrilling, but learning how they built the world from scratch adds an entirely new layer of appreciation. And if you're lucky enough to catch one of those rare theatrical re-releases, do not miss it. Seeing Jurassic World on the big screen with an audience is an experience that simply can't be matched. The shared gasps, the nervous laughter, the cheers when the T-Rex shows up. These are moments that feel bigger when you're part of a crowd. The sound system in a modern cinema adds a dimension that even the best home setups struggle to recreate. That crescendo when the raptors turn on the Indominus? That final team-up battle? Pure, pulse-pounding bliss in a darkened room filled with popcorn and anticipation. So whether you're kicking back on your couch with snacks in hand, plugging into a digital rental for a weekend treat, or popping in a Blu-ray for the full cinematic experience with director notes and all, Jurassic World is widely accessible and totally built for rewatching. And if you have the tech for it, go as big and loud as you can. This isn't a film that whispers its way into your living room. It thunders in, roars at full volume, and demands to be felt as much as watched. Because when it comes to giant genetically engineered dinosaurs rampaging through a high-tech theme park, subtlety is extinct.